You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back with another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, this June has been Juning. I must say, I have really been impressed with the June energy. Like, there hasn't been too much crazy rain. I mean, there's been a couple of rainy days, I suppose, but not anything that I can remember. This has been a lot of really, really sunny days. Like, I really am beginning to, soak in pre-summer, because I am one of those people who believe that summer starts after June 20th. But it is starting to feel a little bit like summer. And it's been good. I just feel like there's been some just good vibes and great energy and a lot of outdoor events. I have definitely been outside. I can't even deny it. I have been outside. I went to something I haven't been to ever, like I can recall. Like last week it was the Roots picnic. This week I was at a Greek picnic or a cookout, and it was Divine Nine, so AKs and Deltas, and of course the Alphas, of course. And there were some Kappas, there were some Iotas, shockingly. But there was a lot of folks, and we were in North Philly. I think it was called Chalmers. I think the area was at, but it was really nice, peaceful, fun. They lit firecrackers at the end. Some folks did towards the end of the evening. But it was fun. It was so much fun. It was just, great vibes. Everybody's making drinks and strolling. It was epic. It was lots of people, but we had tents and all that stuff. At least our chapter did, a row did. We had our own tents and coolers and mixers, and it was just great. It was just a very, very fun, positive Black event. Everybody was just vibing and chilling and having a good time. And it was fun. It was a good time. I'm happy I went. I think things like that, I just like to be with people I know, because you just never know who's going to be there. But it was very fun. The music was banging. It was turn up. It was lit. It was cute. But yeah, it was definitely a good old time. I went to Prince Tea House, which is this tea house that's they have this across the country, but they have a location that's relatively new in Chinatown. And I got to have a high tea situation because I was a little bummed. This past weekend, there was the drag tea brunch at Sofitel, which I go to religiously, but it was so much going on my schedule this weekend that I couldn't go. But I got to try Prince High Tea and had a drag-less tea experience, but nonetheless, that place is great. A lot of people like hot tea in Philly, but not all of them are equally as great. Prince Tea House in Chinatown is reasonably priced. They have brunch now, which is pretty good. And they do all of the fun stuff. Their tea is really, really good. They have caffeine-free options, by the way, for those who are into decaf like myself. I'm not really a caffeine person, but I did do caffeine in this tea. I had like a tropical jasmine flavor. That was really, really good. And then they had the cute little savory sweet treats, the scones, which I love that they have real scones. One of my friends who I went with, they're used to scones from Starbucks, which y'all know I don't do anything with Starbucks, but they were just saying like how Starbucks have scones. And I was like, whatever that is at Starbucks is probably a grandiose biscotti, cosplaying as a scone. Like, scones have a very distinct look, taste, texture, and I know what a scone should look like. And so it was really fun to have that with the cream and the preservative, and it was just a good old little time. I had brunch with my good friend, Farah, who lives now she lives in Pennsylvania, but she lives like near Harrisburg. And she came to Philly just for a little weekend, and we had brunch at White Dog Cafe. Farah and I, I think I was doing this podcast. I did this podcast when I went to her wedding. This is my good friend who I went to Penn for 4 years with. We lived in the boys' college house together. She had a big, big, extravagant wedding in Dallas. and we had wore traditional wear. Her family's Persian, her husband is Indian, and so it was like a real, like, massive epic wedding. And she's been happily married since, and she and her husband came to Philly, and me and her just had like a girls brunch out, and we went to White Dog, and it was fabulous because White Dog is great. White Dog has a very good, consistent brunch. Like, you just can never not have a good brunch at White Dog. And I think it's because they're very ingredient focused. They're very consistent. They have great specials all the time. Like, it's never a time I go to White Dog and not feel satisfied. Like, everything is well portioned. The prices are very reasonable. The food is just really good. So we were just catching up. I mean, we had like I want to say that brunch was like 3 hours. We just caught up on life and was just talking. And it was so funny because she just kind of decided to like pop up and just visit. And she texted me, and I had plans I had something else I was going to do. And I was like, nope, I'm going to go do this. I didn't go to Dune Day because I was out having brunch with a good friend. And sometimes you just can work it out. Just certain people in your life can make you just move some things around when they come through. So she was fabulous. We went to what happened? Oh, Dune Day happened this weekend. I didn't go, but here's a fun fact. I've never been to Dune Day. I don't think I've ever been to Dune Day festival. For some reason, I don't know. Like, I'm not really an outdoorsy festival type of person. I'm starting to realize that the older I get, the more I begin to recognize things that is not an Ernest affair. What's weird is that I will say this year, I've done a lot of things I've never done before. So I never say never, but I'm also very familiar with the things that it's going to require some effort. And so, like, I don't really do big, massive cookout picnic vibes. But June, I went to 2 of them. So who knows? Festivals, outdoor festivals. I mean, I guess I'm going to be this person for like 5 seconds. Bear with me. I am a Libra, and I like to see things in order. I like to go places and do things where there's a clear understanding, there's an agenda, there's something there. Now, spontaneity, I don't mind if it's someone that I like that has a plan. I don't have to have the plan. I don't have to be a control freak, but I kind of need to know what we get into because I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to waste energy or money or anything. I don't like to waste things. I'm very much a person who likes to restore, reserve, reuse, reduce, recycle. Like, that's my energy about everything, whether it's energy, relationships, money, food. I don't like to waste food. Like, I'm just all about conservation. So yeah, I just feel like spending a day, going to a festival, not really knowing what I'm going to go there for per se. I don't really know, is not my idea of a good time. I can imagine it's for somebody else. Like, I'm the person that's like, who all gonna be there? Or if I do something, who am I going with? There's gotta be a purpose. Like, for example, there's a rosé event that I got invited to, Lip Brothers. We all got invited to, that's next week. We know what it is. We're gonna go, we're gonna be cute, we're gonna turn up, and we're gonna have, rosé and food and things, and there's an agenda there. So, like, I'm going into something, having an idea. Now, there might be pop-ups and other surprises and other things. That's fine. But we know what we're going into. We have an idea. The plan is to get rosé, to drink and enjoy rosé, to be cute, and to support a Black event. That's the agenda. We're going to be cute. We're going to be gay. We're going to be rosé. And we're going to celebrate Pride Month in our own way. Like, that's it. That's the agenda. But on Dune Day, it's like, I don't know exactly how I fit into that personally. Like, what am I there? Like, I was like, maybe there's a food angle, but it's like, well, what is there to eat? And there is things to eat, I imagine, but it's just like, okay, so I'll eat a turkey leg or something smoked or something really good. And then there's the shops with the jewelry and things. And I'm just like, okay, there's a couple of vendors. But I don't know, I just think I've come to accept that it may not necessarily be my kind of idea of a good time. That doesn't mean it's bad. Like, it's not, like, I'm not saying don't go for other people. Like, other people have a great time there. But I'm recognizing as I've gotten older, if it's something I haven't ran into and tapped into at this point in my life, I've been in Philadelphia for 14 years. There are two things I haven't really done that often that a lot of people are into. Wow Wow Welcome America. I don't think I've ever been to Wow Wow Welcome America actual concerts because, again, I'm like very like music festivals, crowds, yeah, too much. Um, what is the other one? Odunde Festival. I did a couple of Pride festivals many years ago, but that was because I was the LGBTQ editor at Philadelphia Magazine. So it was pretty much my job to cover all things gay, queer, trans, whatever, even if it might not be this type of event or thing I'm into because I'm a journalist. I'm putting my journalist hat. It's work related, right? But I don't, since then, I really haven't gone to any of the Pride events really. Because it's kind of like you go once, you've gone to one or two, it's kind of the same thing. If you like it, you love it, you keep going. If you don't, it's like, Roots Picnic won me over, but I think it was because I had a VIP experience that was curated. So that felt, very fun and, organized in its own right. And I also knew a lot of the vendors there. So it didn't feel too congested and too crazy, like compared to Made in America, this is more, Roots Picnic overall is more tamed. It was clearly more Black. I mean, it was Black music. It was a vibe. Like everything about that just felt more, organized. And I can appreciate that overall. Now, as you all know, last week in my critique, there were also a lot of things that was not. But overall, like now that it's been a week since Roots Picnic, I can appreciate what it was giving. As far as restaurants go, I enjoyed a lot of fun things. I went to Square 1682, which has a brand new chef. This is that great restaurant that's right across the street from Sofitel. I feel like I've been saying Sofitel a lot. I went to Sofitel, the Jubilee. They had a 60th anniversary Jubilee this past week that I went to early in the week, and it was fabulous. It was everything. And it was so smart because Sofitel, that great hotel, is celebrating its 60th anniversary internationally. And the Sofitel Philadelphia, which is in Rittenhouse, the one that we had an event at, they have a brand new chef, as you all know. They have a brand new renovations to the hotel, to the bar, to the restaurant. Liberté Lounge is gorgeous. And so I was there for that early in the week. And then later on this past week, I went to Square 1682, which is another great spot. Really fun, fancy. Brand new chef. They had a summer soiree tasting, or their brand new summer menu, the new chef's direction, and it was a vibe. It was great. The food was wonderful. Yeah, I loved it a lot, and I shared it on IG, so you can check the grid out. I also tried another Michael Scholsten restaurant, and I'm in love with Michael Scholsten Collective, like the Scholsten Collective restaurant brand. Like I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but I do want to say this. They might just be my favorite restaurant group in the city. And I'll say that only on this episode. Like I feel like they just have everything for everybody. Like everything is just, there's a lot of great restaurants. I don't think Scholsten Collective has any singular bad restaurant. Like there are some restaurant groups in the city, not going to name them, not going to get into specifics, but anybody else. But there's some restaurant groups in the city, right, that have a bunch of restaurants. And I'm just kind of like, some of these restaurants are redundant. Some of these restaurants are just, why is it on your roster? Like you don't even need to have this. Like, what is the point of this place? Like, but Scholsten, every place I go to by them has a groove, has a spirit, has a sound, as my good Judy Pocahontas said in Colors of the Wind. There's a purpose here. A lot of places don't have, a lot of restaurants, groups will just keep throwing darts in the air until something sticks. But I feel like with Scholsten's, they just have a really thorough understanding about what they want, and they are ambitious to create different things. They have a sushi spot like Double Knot. They have Sampan, which is, low-key fun. Prunella is like this very light Italian restaurant. Via La Costa is where I went in Rittenhouse. It's the restaurant with the great outdoor seating as well. That's right behind Park, and it's its own little groove right there on Locust. And she's pretty, and she's fun, and she's filling, and she's flavorful, and she's just everything that you want in a nice chill restaurant. And I've never had the opportunity to have a real full fledged dinner. I went with a frat brother, and we just ate our way through. We was sipping tea and getting some great tea. The tea was hot, but we just had some great just talk and chat. But it was just the food, everything. I mean, they had beets, they had summer beets, and I've really been eating a lot of beets lately. Just I was at White Dog Cafe with brunch with my good girl Farah, and there were beets there, and I'm just like, beets are in season. Beets are what's up. Beets, a beet salad. You just can't go wrong with that. And carrots, really good heirloom carrots. Like, that's the thing. But Villa Costa had a great like spread. Wonderful pizza situation. The pasta, there was a crab pasta, there was a duck ragu situation happening with one of the pastas we tried. Oh, and there was this delicious, succulent, oh, it was this really great pork chop. Oh my goodness. And it's so hard in Philadelphia to find a good pork chop. Like a good pork chop in Philly, like a really good, thick cut, it's hard to find. One that is dressed up really well. I think there was like a cherry preserve or juice, just that was Jew that was there, Jew. That was like a cherry Jew sauce or whatever that went with it. It was juicy, it was succulent, it was cooked medium. It was definitely a memorable dish. I would definitely go back there again. Via La Costa is stellar. Highly recommended. Highly recommend. Really great time. And the cocktails, oh, don't get me started on the cocktails. They got a really great cocktail program right now that's consistently fun, fruity, flavorful, and divine. So, yeah, Via La Costa, if you're looking for a fun date night, if you're looking for an outdoor romantic summery experience, if you're looking for a good time to just sip tea in the shade with a good bestie, that's also a place to go. Happy hour is like from 4 to 6. Their happy hour is probably one of the more elegant happy hours where like, okay, they have great drinks, right? But their happy hour bites are stellar. So yeah, I'm all in with them. And I really, again, another iconic Shoston restaurant. As you all know, I've been spinning the block on Shoston restaurants, going back, checking out new places. I'm on a crusade to go to every Michael Shoston restaurant by the end of 2024. And so far, it appears that I'm going to hit that goal. I've been to a bunch so far this year. I mean, Pearl and Mary was great. Giuseppe and Sons, the new Bar Leisure. Where else did I go? It was another place. Double Knot. Remember, Double Knot went there. And then Via La Costa. Like, I've been just hitting up all the shows. Like, I am, like, that's become my new, like, hobby, has been, in addition to going to new restaurants and checking out, classics, trying to, go to go pick a restaurant group for a year and try to go to all the restaurants and compare and contrast which one I like, which one I don't, whatever. Shoston has been hard because every time I go to a Shoston restaurant, I'm thinking, oh, this is my favorite one. And then I go to another one, I'm just like floored and amazed. I'm like, okay, actually, this one's really good. So that's been my project, has just been to go to this year, to go to all the Shoston restaurants. So far, so good. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep checking things out. And I've gone to other restaurant groups I've been to. Like, I've been to every Michael Solomonoff restaurant. I've been to everyone. Every time. Every time he calls, he hits me up. Like, I check out. I've even gone to restaurants by him that's not in Philadelphia. Like, there's a one in Brooklyn that I went to with my bestie Abel, my college roommate. We went to a restaurant that is not in Philly, because Cook and Solomon, the Cook and Solo restaurants, they had one particular restaurant from their brand that's, I think it's called Jamora. I can't remember what it's called. I went last year in Brooklyn because I had a book signing event, and I went after that. Abel and I went, and that place was really fun. The food was fun. It was very flirty, very seafood forward. Had an Israeli, Middle Eastern energy to it as far as the cuisine, but it was very seafood forward. I remember that about it, and it was really good. I'm trying to remember because he had Laser Roof in Brooklyn, but I've been to Laser Roof of course, in Philly. But that restaurant, Kafar, there's a Kafar in Brooklyn, but I've been to Kafar in Philly already, the original. Um, but where else I've been? Yeah, I think I've been to every Solomov restaurant that has been around, for sure. Goldie, Federal Donuts and Chicken. Now it's called Federal Donuts and Chicken. I remember it was just Federal Donuts. I remember Abe Fisher, that's no longer there. I remember Abe Fisher, that's no longer there. Dizengoff, Kafar, Federal Donuts and Chicken, Laser Wolf. Yeah, he's just has a collection. But these are his. I guess the other restaurant they don't talk about anymore. But I guess they turned into something else. But because that's interesting, because I remember there was another restaurant in Brooklyn, and I guess it's not there anymore or something. I remember this restaurant very well. Um, mm, mm. I remember Abe Fisher. Let me see. But yeah, it's interesting because I'm like trying to find this place, and I guess it's not. It's not. I don't think it's open anymore. But nonetheless, I've been to every Steven Starr restaurant in Philly. Because I know he has restaurants everywhere else. Um, but you just find the places that you want to go to. You like what you like. All those things. But yeah, it's just interesting to me. Like I remember this restaurant, and like it's like I feel like they scrubbed it off of the face of the planet. Like I'm like, well, what happened to that place? And now it's like grinding my gears because like I remember this place, or maybe it was a pop up. Maybe it was a pop up restaurant. Um, but I was like, there was a whole situation. Um, oh, I think I found it. It was called um, well, they have Merkaz, but they don't have that anymore. Um, hmm, it just disappeared. But nonetheless, other places that I've gone to, outside of that, was the wet deck at the W, which I really liked a lot. The wet deck is the rooftop, that popular rooftop at the W Hotel. They have a new summer cocktail menu and great food. And I had a really good time there. The food was popping. It was a great vibe. Really, really like their food. And they're doing some new things there. They have a new bartender, like a new liquor program director who like does all the beverages, cocktails. This person came initially from they were in Colorado, like I think in Denver. And they were in Colorado at was it Aspen? It was Aspen. It was Aspen in Colorado. And they were at the W there in Aspen there in Colorado. And they ran the liquor program, and now they're in Philadelphia, and they're then changed everything with the drinks. And I had the pleasure of trying and sampling every new cocktail, the whole menu, every new cocktail I got to try off the menu and try their other appetizers and bites, which are light and fun. Great situation overall. Love the wet deck, and love the way that they're, what they're doing. Get ready for the summer. And then in other news, of course, what do I want to start with? I want to start with it. I'll get to Piers Morgan in a minute. I am a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I am a proud life member of the fraternity. Life memberships are very exclusive. I pricey, some people say. But basically I don't have to pay dues to the organization ever again. I'm a member for life. I don't have any grand tax or dues to pay. But I will continue to, of course, membership dues aside, be a brother, be in service, and just do the great work. And it was a great opportunity, and grateful for my sponsors and recommenders and supporters and all those great people. But I'm super excited about it. It's been quite the experience, being a part of the fraternity and just doing the great work. And yeah, it's just been so much. I'm having so much fun, and it's just great. Um, There was something else. Oh, yes. Piers Morgan. So you all saw the Piers Morgan um, interview. Another month, another Piers Morgan interview. I really enjoy going on that show. I know people are like, well, I don't get it. Like the topics, the subject matter. As a journalist, as a voice of reason, because that matters, I appreciate the way that the formatting of the show. I don't agree with Piers Morgan on like 90% of things, as you all already know. But what I do appreciate about the show is that Piers Morgan Uncensored, we're uncensored. Like, we get to talk our shit. Like, he has found a way to maintain the quality of the show as far as like how it looks, the host and everything. But he's able to really do a real full-fledged program that does not get interrupted by commercials and all this other shit. Like, we get to go on there. There's no talking points. There's none of that bullshit. You go on the show. The producers call me. I've become a regular at this point. They'll call me. They say, are you available at this time to tape or whatever? They don't edit anything. So like the cool thing is that everything you heard me say in that segment, it was almost like we're on live TV. And I don't know if I should say this, but I mean it is a British show. It's not in the US. So the background is that the way Piers has it set up is that he's no longer doing his show on the traditional British channel network. He does his own show where he doesn't do live anymore, I believe. He has a weekly rollout of episodes and programming. He books talent. The producers call. They hit me up through WhatsApp because that's the international communication network exchange, email and WhatsApp. Because now that I'm a regular, they just hit me up by the WhatsApp. They'll say, hey, Piers wants you to come on this week to talk about X, Y, and Z. Are you available at this time? I make myself available. They schedule it. My agent is involved. They take care of all the rest. Nowadays, what's been cool is that oftentimes they don't have me on Zoom. They like to bring me with a professional set. So what happens is they'll bring out what is called a studio van. The studio van comes to wherever I'm at. If I'm downtown, they'll meet me there. If I'm in, where else would I be? Like if I'm at my house, they'll come in the studio van. And what's cool is that the studio van is connected to a really great like TV monitor. It's like a little base camera. They have a background. They have makeup and stuff if you need that. I don't need makeup. I don't wear makeup on set. But, anything that like, let's say a woman comes on the show, she wants to have makeup on to do a touch up or something. They have water. They have snacks. Like it's almost like a little mini green room set type of thing. And they have you set up in there. The truck is set up in a way it's really protected. They park and they have you go in. And the great thing about it is like if I'm at home, I don't think anyone's caught me yet, but I will be wearing a nice blazer, suit jacket, all the good stuff. And then I will have on some flip-flops and some shorts and just go right in, do my segment, and then dip. Like that's my flow. Like that's, how it is. That's how it is on production. Like it's a really interesting phenomenon. You don't have the days of having to go to someone's studio and get a driver pick you up and take you to some undisclosed location. I don't know. The way Piers has it set up, they send out a van and they will set you up wherever you at to get the best out of you. I appreciate it. I've never had that type of service with any other TV program. Like in the past, CNN will get a driver to pick me up from my location and take me directly to the studio. And then take me back home or whatever. Don't get a driver. CNN will do that. But CNN has been a little interesting because I don't want to call them cheap, but they have been a little interesting where in the past, like I want to say recently I've noticed that they'll just zoom people in, which I guess can work. But Piers has been really interested in quality, so he doesn't do too much zooming. So whenever they want me or want me to be on a segment, they got me in the background. I'm looking good. The production is on. It's on point. So that's a lot of you always like, where were you at and how does that work? It's very different. So that's one thing. The other thing I appreciate about being on his show is that they tell me what the topic is. If they know all the guests are confirmed, they'll tell me who the guests are, but they don't ask me to give them talking points. They don't try to dictate what I say, how I say it. They just let me be my real and authentic self. Um, and I come and I do my thing. So that's like big to me. That's big to me. And I think that makes all the difference compared to everybody else, other productions and sets. Because I will tell you, I was just saying this the other day to a friend of mine about just the shows and navigating these productions, is that a lot of times they want you, when you go on like MSNBC or CNN, we're not even going to act like Fox News is a thing. They ask you to tell them positions. They vet everything you say. If it does not fit what they want you, like basically they want to typecast people, then they won't call you to be on, or they'll just find someone else that's going to say the things they want you to say. And so I've noticed that over the years, like in the past, MSNBC will have me, they will call me, or CNN. CNN was worse. I would say CNN was much worse. They'll call me and they'll say, hey, won't you come on this show to do this segment? And I'll say, sure, that's awesome. I'm interested. And I'll say, well, what are some of the things you want to talk about? Or, what are the things that you think about this issue? And I'll be very honest and very transparent. And then they'll try to move me or sway me on a certain way. They'll say, well, I mean, wouldn't, we want you to speak more about this particular thing. And I'll be like, well, I don't think that's the reason, but they want that particular, agenda or that angle. So they will shift things around. And so I'll give an example. I won't name names. I won't tell who or whatever, but there was a period of time when you all remember Donald Trump, when he was president, was pardoning a lot of people, in his first and hopefully last term as president. He was pardoning a lot of people, and one of the people that he pardoned, I believe, was rappers Kodak Black and Lil Wayne and whatnot. And they were like, people, I was hit by a particular place, a station or whatever, and they were like, you're a millennial, you're black, you're definitely in a hip hop listener group. What do you think this means for black voters when they see that Trump is pardoning these hip hop heavyweights? And my answer was quite simple. Not a damn thing. And they were just kind of like, what do you mean? I said, black voters don't care what these rappers are doing. I mean, they're disappointed in how some of these rappers have shown up in the political space, but they're not making decisions politically based on what these rich rappers are. And what's funny about it to me is what's funny to me about the whole situation is, how do I put this? Black voters, like, I always say this. Do you all know, do you all actually know black voters? Like, raise your hand. If you're a black person listening to this podcast, if you're a black American voter listening to this podcast, raise your hand if a rapper's endorsement ever dictated or determined how you voted. Raise your hand if the direction of black celebrities in general shapes the way you choose to vote or not in a presidential election. Raise your hand if you believe that Trump being endorsed by black rappers or certain black rappers is going to impact the way that black voters show up to the polls in November. Okay, questions are done. I bet you any of you all listening are not raising your hands. Not a goddamn finger was raised. Not none of us raised our hands for any of that because we don't believe that because no one does. And I think that's the problem with outside. Let's just keep it 100 white people looking and previewing what black people are doing on the outskirts. Because once again, Malcolm X said it best is that there's this fakeness that when it comes to black political power and leadership, we put too much emphasis on black celebrities and famous people in ways that white people don't, right? Like white people have Kid Rock. Kid Rock is endorsing and likes Trump. Nobody is asking white voters, Kid Rock just endorsed Trump. Is that going to shape the way you vote this election? Like, no one's asking anyone about Ed Wood or Kelsey Grammer or anybody who's affiliated with Trump. Like, no one's asking white voters if these people endorsing him is going to shape the way they vote. But every time Amber Rose or whomever says something positive about Trump or says they're going to vote for Trump, black people are consistently bombarded about it as if these people are leaders. Why are you not asking like major, nonprofit leaders, major political figures about it? Why? Because that's not sexy. That doesn't sell clicks. That doesn't sell ads. That doesn't make money. It's not fun to, and sometimes that's because we take our elections seriously. Black voters take elections and politics seriously. We're not going to play around with it. We are good at decompartmentalizing expectations politically when it comes to certain things. I will give us credit for that. Like, we're not looking at Lil Wayne thinking Lil Wayne is going to determine the outcome of the election or any support he has or affiliation he has with Trump is going to make thousands upon thousands of black, voters just, it's just not going to shape anything. And so that's been my biggest frustration just watching it. So I remember talking to this TV station or this channel, whatever, and they were like trying to pin me down to say things that they wanted to get me on air to talk about. And I just kept saying, it's I can get on there and say that I do think a lot of this is being exaggerated. I think that these people have that certain factors have an outsized belief. And then quite frankly, some of these people are doing this to grift because, they weren't getting attention in other areas around, social issues and politics. And so I think a lot of them hold on to these grandiose schemes, and I call them scams, to be honest, where they try to throw their hat into races and do things to get news and attention. And as long as people like Donald Trump are running, anybody who endorses him or speak positively to him are going to make headlines. And so that is what I think some of these people are doing. They're riding this wave for relevance, even though it'll be short-lived. So that is definitely some food for thought for me and how I've been considering how to articulate to election campaigns and to the public why they shouldn't put too much stock behind black celebrities and endorsements. But anyway, being on the show this time around was just an overall good time. Like, there was lots of josting. We got to really just, talk our shit. And, I'm going pretty viral right now, as you all can imagine, The fun thing about just the show is that it's very polarizing. So there are people who are like, oh yeah, Pierce got him with that question, which was the question about, he was making a conflation between race and gender, being like, if I choose to be a black person, can I be, what if I choose to identify as a black person, what about me? Does that not count for myself in relation to the very transphobic notion around, well, if trans people can just choose their gender, then can I just choose race and they act like that's like a zinger. But from the jump, I made it very clear to him, one, the question is intellectually dishonest because you're comparing, chocolate bars to fruit. Like they're not even in the same category. Like race and gender are two different things. And to make a conflation between race and gender in that way is just bullshit, right? And the thing about it is that to reduce transgender people as simply individuals who just wake up and just choose to just be a different gender while ignoring the actual research and process to which a person reaches that understanding about themselves and their gender. Like there's a thing called gender dysphoria, which is a situation where individuals who are that literally psychologically and clinically feel like they're in the wrong body, their entire, thought processes, their entire existence, it feels in a state of entrapment. And these signs are shown very early in people who deal with their identity in this type of struggle. There is nothing on any type of biological research basis around anyone that's a white person or someone feeling like they should be a different racial identity. Like there is no quote unquote trans racial people. Like that's just bullshit, right? And in reality, we know that. And that's just common sense. And so when I told Piers Morgan that he was being intellectually dishonest, for me, everything he asked and said at that point was just like, dude, whatever. And the joke for me was that I told Piers, the reason why this is even intellectually dishonest and just a waste of time is because you don't even want to be a black man. You wouldn't even want to be a black man. Like you enjoy your white privilege in a way that you would never even want to. Like it's the hypothetical around the way that people talk about transgender matters compared to any other group. You can't compare that experience or that feeling. We know that it takes a lot for a person to want to go through gender affirming care and surgery. Like we know that. And so for there to be a conflation between that experience and that reality to race is just preposterous. And, again, there were right-wing dingbats who, of course, was feeling how they felt, but it was so uplifting and it was very cool and touching that a lot of people who are allies and transgender parents from around the world was in my DMs telling me, thank you for this. I appreciate you for saying that and just showing mad love. And so, even though there is the otherness of it all, there is also another side to this. And for me, I enjoy doing programming like that, where I get to confront and engage ignorance and bigotry up front, and also in a way that, does what it needs to do for me as well. That's the fun versus going on these cable channels, like I mentioned earlier, and everything is so fake, everything is so curated and edited down and reduced. And the problem is that if you don't know how people in this world really think about this shit and talk about it and engage it and really confront it, then you're going to always act shocked every time something happens. And I'm so sick of that. Like there was a situation that happened in Philly this week where somebody had a racist experience happen to them. They were definitely, done wrong, and that was legitimate. But there was this situation where they decided to share it. Of course, people were like flipping out and like being like, this is racist. The man on the video was drunk. He was white man in I think it was in South Philly or around there or whatever. He was just saying the most mean, hurtful, racist things. And I just am like, it's fucked up, it's messed up, but I'm just at this point as a black person where I don't need to see or know that these things happen. The question becomes, what are we going to do? Are we throwing hands? Because videos, are we throwing hands? Are we going to do something direct? I just think just the filming someone being a racist is just so dangerous. It's just so traumatizing and just triggering. It's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? That's where I'm at. I just think just the whole, here's this racist thing happening. Racism is real. Who are you trying to convince? White people? It's 2024, baby. If white people don't know that racism is real, racism exists, they do know it exists. They don't care. I just wish everybody across the end just say they don't care. Everybody, right? Like, I am somebody who supports women. I support queer people. I support black people, black and brown people. I support people who are against neo-Nazism. Like, I support the right side of history, right? That being said, if there's a counter to it, it is what it is. I stand 10 toes down. People are like, oh my goodness, this Me Too stuff is making a lot of talented people lose their careers. Well, if they're out here raping people and doing it, so fucking be it. I wrote the book on the case for cancel culture. If people are really out here doing the things that they're being accused of doing, then I don't give a fuck about their careers. Like, I'm sorry, I don't, right? I'm not gonna be like, well, I don't know. Like, what extent does that, I'm not playing the guessing games. It's yeah, they should be, sure. The public does not have to pay for their music. All this, well, what about second chances? Well, they got to figure it out. I don't give a fuck. Like, you out here diddying people, you out here doing shit like that, well, fuck you. Like, that's where I am about it. I think the side that annoys me is that people want to placate and play certain types of games. It's like, oh, this is, I'm not against, like the girl was on, Piers Morgan Uncensored. She's like, I don't have an issue with pride or anything personally. People could do what they want to do. I don't agree with it. However, I still believe, no, you have beliefs that that you believe they're inferior. You support legislation and laws that will further their discrimination. You are a homophobe. You don't get to say all of the things that are homophobic and then get away from the title. Like, lean into that shit. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, so you want to cancel people? Yes, I want to cancel rapists. I want to cancel racists. I want to cancel people like that. And I don't give a fuck about second chances. They can figure that shit out. That's who I am. I don't care. Like, I leaned into the far right rhetoric of what they called us. Oh, the woke culture. Yes, I'm woke. Yes, I'm alive. I'm awake on the bullshit. Yes, I'm woke to the bullshit. Yes, I'm woke on it. I stay woke. I'm not about to let you try to do something that's gonna fuck me over and my people. Like, that's my mindset. Lean into that shit. Stand 10 toes down on that shit. That's where I'm at with it. What I don't like is people who hold these beliefs, say these things, and then you call them what you call them, and they don't want the label. No, if you're homophobe, say you're homophobe. Say I'm homophobic. There are some white people out here that say they're racist and they don't care. Like, Ann Coulter pretty much is out here being like, I think white people are superior. Like, whatever. Like, clearly she's a horrible person. She's trash. I don't fuck with her. But you know what? I can recognize the fact that she telling me who she is, what she's about, and what she stands for. All these other people that want to tiptoe and placate, them the worst people. I don't like those people. I don't like racists either, but at least at least that person is telling me who they are, and I can move accordingly. What I don't like are the people who do I'm against this, I'm not a homophobe, I'm not this, I'm not that. But I'm looking at the survey, and the survey says, and you are, right? Those people, to me, are the worst people. Like, that's why I'm like, with Donald Trump, I want every inch of me for this man not to be the next president. Fuck Donald Trump. He's trash. Donald Trump is being exactly who he is and saying exactly how he feels. And you got to choose whether you want it or you don't. But I know where I stand on it. He knows what he is. It's the rest of these people that's trying to soften him and trying to change him or reframe him to people. No, y'all. The people that is trying to reframe Donald Trump is not Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not trying to reframe himself. Even myself, I'm not trying to water down how I feel about certain issues that impact me and my community. It is what it is. People are like, well, people can think you're radical. If it's radical to believe that Black people are being exponentially marginalized in our society, and that we are owed equal opportunity and justice and equity, then I guess you could call me a radical if that's what radicalism to you. Fine. But if you feel like that, I also want you to know that because you think I'm radical for that, I think that you're a problem. So we can do this both ways. You can call me radical, and I can call you a fucking problem. If you are still in 2024 not believing in supporting marriage equality, not believing that LGBTQI people deserve equal rights and the right to have everything that their cishet folks are given under the law. If you believe that that is a step too far extreme and you want to reduce us to some level of a second-class citizen, then you are a homophobe. And you told me, you said you're entitled to your beliefs? That's right. You're entitled to your beliefs. And I'm entitled to mine. And I think that's the issue I have with folks on the other side, is that while they talk all day about how they should have free speech, free this, free that, they literally want to suppress other people's rights, other people's opportunities, other people's visibility, because they want to make the argument that that goes against what they believe. But it's like, well, what the fuck you're doing goes against what I believe. And why do you think what you believe should override what I believe? Oh, because you don't see me as a full equal person. You don't see me as a human being. You don't see me as your peer. So if you're leaning on white supremacy to justify your superiority in the debate, then by all means, I don't have to respect your opinion. And your opinion should be suppressed because it actually isn't playing by the rules when it comes to humanity and decency for all. So yeah, it's that simple to me. It's that simple. And when you shut shit down like that, it's easy. It's so easy. And I'm going to say this before I move on. To the people out here that continue to do this new thing I'm seeing where you want to say, yeah, I support gay rights. Listen carefully to the folks that say gay rights. They're being very transparent. They support gay rights. They support gay marriage. They support gay people, but they're transphobic as fuck. And where I stand on the issue is that there's no half-ass here. You know, I think about that with when white people try to play respectability politics and weaponize certain black people against each other. They'll say, "Oh, well, you're different. I like you because you're a different type of. They don't say you're a different type of black." But they say you're a different type of black. They'll say things like, "Oh, you're not like the rest of them," or you're easy to work with. Oh, you're not as difficult, or you're more understanding. You're more open. Like when they say that type of stuff, right? That's their way of trying to pit other folks in communities against each other. And in the LGBTQI community, there are a lot of cishet folks that love to pigeonhole and weaponize. And we see those people they do it for. And there's a lot of people in the community, just like other groups, right, marginalized groups, that fall for it because they are thinking it's a way of survival. They want to assimilate because they think assimilation will give them survival. Well, have you ever recognized that any action of assimilation in society based on that type of inferiority complex often leads to further marginalization and violence? So we know that's what the reality is. We know that the consequences for, playing those type of games lead to fucked up consequences. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And that's really what is happening. And so when I have seen people do this thing where they say, "Oh, I don't mind gay marriage. Like, that's fine. I don't, gay people say, but why do these people want to be a woman? Like, why do they want to do this and do that?" And I'm just like, you know what? You motherfuckers don't care about me, gay people, anybody else. Because the funny part is, right, is that many years ago, the same people questioning transgender folks were the same people that were like, "I don't know why they want to marry a man. Why they got to get right? I mean, why they got to be open with it? Why won't they just do it on the low? Like, do it in the privacy in your own bedroom?" Because at the end of the day, it's never been just about sex. It's never just been about people doing something in their bedroom. To reduce gay rights and LGBTQI, specifically gay rights, to just a conversation about people having sex is the most basic surface level shit. It's about giving people legal protections with people that they are married to and in love with and with, so that they can be able to reap actual deserved benefits as a United States citizen in this country. So the reality is that people are not like just simply wanting rights to fuck. No, anybody can have sex, but people have been doing that forever. It's not about the right to fuck. It's about the right to exist and have all full-fledged dignities as a tax-paying participant in this country. Like, no one's asking for your permission to have sex. I don't need you to say, yes, Mr. Owens, you can fuck your man. No, I don't need your permission to do that. What I need your permission to do is to allow me to get the full-fledged rights that my taxpayers' dollars provides to cishet people, because that is what I'm entitled as a living, breathing human being. That's my dignity, my rights. So yes, if I'm married, which I am, and my husband has a job, I should have the right to get the benefits, which I do. When you didn't legalize gay marriage, what that meant is that I couldn't be the power attorney to be able to have a right. If my something happens to the person I'm married to, I can't go to the hospital or have a decision on that. I may not be able to get access to see them in the hospital because I'm not considered an actual, married partner to them, a spouse or whatever, right? I won't be able to get actual benefits, legally with them. It will be problems with adoption or to get a house or properties or taxes, filing for taxes, right? We forget taxes. Like when you're married, you're able to file taxes and get the certain benefits and joint taxes. Can't do that if you don't have a marriage license, right? So there's a lot of other things that happens. And the truth of the matter is, whoever is saying this shit, are you not married, never been married? So you just have these opinions and you don't know nothing because you ain't never been married. You don't know the benefits, right? But I have found it interesting that married people or people who've been married in the past or whatnot, typically who are not homophobic, right, completely understands gay marriage, because they understand that if a person doesn't have that, they understand the legal benefits of a marriage. People who are homophobic that are married are also people that understand that too, and they don't believe that people like me deserve to have those rights and those benefits. So that's the real conversation when it comes to that. However, getting back to this point around transphobia is that the respectability politics of it all is that we do have people who do understand and support gay marriage, but they feel like caring about any other community outside of lesbians and gay people is a tad bit too far. They don't care about non-binary people. They don't give a fuck about pronouns. They don't care about respecting transgender people's ability to get the necessary surgery, support, medical assistance, and whatever to be able to exist the way that they rightfully so know that they are, being the person who they are. That is a problem, right? And so for me, I'm never going to be okay with a transphobic person that supports gay marriage or LGBT. Well, I'm sorry. They support gay marriage and gay rights, because if they support LGBTQ rights, they would support transgender people, so that they don't get to use that title. And there is people, to be very clear, that's in the gay community specifically, right, and the lesbian community that are transphobic, because I try to tell people that as much as we have this community that is supposed to support each other, because we also have a lot of overlap and there's a lot of intersectionality within all of this, we do have people who are a part of the problem. And we know that within other communities, right? Other marginalized communities, we see these problems. We see these problems with women. The women's right movement, right? There's colorism, there's racism, there's fat phobia, there's slut shaming. There's issues there. In the Black community or Latinx community, Black and brown community, people of color, you got folks that play into colorism. You got folks that play into, regionalism and nationalism and diasporic wars that are frivolous and pointless against white supremacy. But you see people having all those issues. There are issues in every community while they're also being marginalized. There's paternalism. There's issues around xenophobia. Like, all of these things are all still issues that we all have to navigate, educate ourselves about. And so I just hate when people make these stupid conflations. Oh, how are you transphobic but you're gay? How are you transphobic but you're cisgender? People be like, I didn't know there was racism in the LGBTQ community. Well, I didn't understand why there's racism in the cishet community. Like, these things don't conflate. I always tell people that, to be very clear, a person's gender expression does not necessarily speak to whatever you think their sexual orientation is. It doesn't. A person's sexual orientation does not necessarily speak to whatever their gender identity is. We have too many people trying to act like these things, are not mutually exclusive. They are in many ways. Every time you see, let's say, for example, a lesbian who might dress and express themselves in a more cis masculine way, that does not necessarily mean that they're transgender and they want to be a man. You can have women who are center of masculine, or you can have women that are, lesbian, but they're feminine and whatever we think that cis norm is. We can have people that are gay men who express themselves in a hyper masculine way, and that's okay. Like, I just get annoyed when people say things like, "Oh, I could tell they were gay," and it's like, sweetheart, child, listen. The ones that want you to know whatever you think that means, they do, but there are people who are out that you don't know. I know there are times where myself and Mr. Johnson, there are times when Mr. Johnson goes out and people assume things that don't know him or don't recognize us or don't know we're together. And they'll see, I mean, more so people now know we're a lot more visible. So people know he's gay and people know we were together. But when we were first dating, there were times when people did not know. They just assumed. I remember there was times where we would go to a party and he'll, branch off and network, and I'll network somewhere else in the room, and there'll be some women there that will flirt with him or somebody, and they just, clearly they knew I was gay, but but they read me on stereotype, right? But there's people that don't necessarily present or express their gender in a certain type of way that would necessarily get that type of reaction. And I say all that to say is that when I hear people say things like, "Oh, I knew that person was gay. I didn't know that person," it's like, you got to really watch out how you are making assumptions about every person. Because I will tell you something. A lot of men that I have previously dated and I know that are gay, a lot of cishet people, like, y'all don't have it. Y'all don't have the gift for gaydar. Like, y'all think y'all do. Y'all don't. You don't. You don't. The people that y'all oftentimes quote unquote clock are people that's like, child, like, even Ray Charles could see that. Like, that's not, child, no. But there are various gender expressions, just that in people that it's like, oh, I could tell some stories. I remember there was this one guy many years ago. The man had a big crush on me, and his friend was someone I knew. I knew personally. His friend was straight, but his other homeboy, who was much, I guess, masculine and buff and whatever, he didn't pick up what this man was putting down, no pun intended, when he was around me. And we was at an event. This was a while. Like, I was at a party, and this guy, it was like, hey, it was like all these probing questions, like, oh, so why are you here? And I'm like, I'm having a good time partying. Oh, well, I'm surprised you'll be at a party like this, because it was a frat party. Back in my college years, and it was a frat party. And they were just like, I'm surprised you would be here and not somewhere else. I said, oh, like the neighborhood? And the guy was like, yeah, like, why are you here? I said, because I like to have a good time, and I can listen. I can merely rock on any block. I can go anywhere and get some attention. And the dude was like, he was just like, oh yeah, I could tell, yeah, definitely you. I could see that for you. Thought this man was flirting, and this man was definitely making a move and being very forward. My homeboy, he didn't know. He just wasn't saying nothing. So then the guy goes to get a drink or something. I go back to my friend. I was like, who your friend? And he was like, who? And I was like, he was like, Ernest, be for real. Like, he's that's not. I was like, are you sure? Like, I was like, are you sure? Because long story short, he wasn't sure, but I was. And we're going to leave that alone. And then quickly, because I'm just full of stories, and it's Pride Month, and I guess this is the Pride episode, I suppose. But this is many years ago. I went to a party like around Temple's campus, me and my girls. I think it was me, Nina, Amanda, Samantha. It was a couple. We went to a party, and it was like during the summer. This is like one of these like early. I think this is summer 11. I think it was, because I was. They were all in Philly that summer. We went to some party, And I think it was called Patterson, or it was on Patterson Street or something like that. It was like in North Philly. And we went to this party and it was lit. It was a good time. We leave. I was out, like I was dressed. I had a different, it was, listen, I was in some, what they call them, coochie cutters or whatever, hoochie daddy shorts. I mean, I was out being cute. So we leave and there's this man, this buff chocolate man on a bike. He was real buff and he was like security guard. And so then he's like a little distance from, he drives by us, he looks our way, and then he drives further and he stops a little bit. And then he points in a direction asking for someone to come over to him, come over. And so I'm the only gay boy in the group. My homegirls are bad. They look good. Like I'm the only gay dude. So I'm thinking I'm the wingman. So I was like, I thought he pointed towards, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Amanda or something. And I was like, oh, girl, look like you about to get chose, girl. You better go over there and go see what he want. So she goes to him. You know, he looks good. We looking like, okay, she about to get this number. So she goes over here and we're like, ooh, you know, what's going on? We overlooking. She comes back and she says, oh, he doesn't want to talk to me. And we're like, oh, girl, who is it? Nina, is he? Like, he wants to talk to you. I was like, me? So I'm like, oh shit, let me go over there. So I went over there. But but listen, you don't know. And you just can't, you gotta listen. The world is being more fluid, questioning, curious than ever. These kids, these Gen Zers, okay, listen. They're just doing it differently. They're doing their big ones. Thanks to the millennials who paved the fucking way, let's be clear. But that's, you know, it's a different world. It's a different world. So you just can't be out here just making assumptions. I've just learned, even as an alpha, going to these Greek events. First of all, I already knew all this shit already because I had a life before all this, so I already knew what I knew. But you just can't be out here assuming people. You know, everybody, you know, people have lives. People evolve. You know, that's just the world. So just be, you know, what Jerry Springer used to say? He used to say, be nice, be kind, be nice to each other, and be nice to each other, and be kind to each other. That's how we end the show. Jerry Springer. He says, be good and be good to each other. Yeah, that's what I got. So moving into the hot topics, because a lot's been going on. You know, Trump is getting sentenced in July, blah, blah, blah. He's been convicted. We know it is what it is for Mr. Trump. You know, apparently he's trying to do an appeal process to delay. He wants to reverse the situation. The problem is the appeal decision may not even be ready in time for the election, because there was a part of Trump that I think he wanted to appeal this, get it done early so that he can, quote unquote, exonerate himself before the election. Because apparently there are some Trump supporters and Republicans that are feeling very disgusted by this conviction with Trump, that they may or may not show up to the polls, or they may just vote, you know, just may not vote. Like, it's a lot of concerns, right? There's a lot of rhetoric that, oh, Trump support is going up and his donors are supporting. But there's also an undercurrent of like, yo, this motherfucker is convicted by a jury of his peers. Like, I mean, y'all, like, what are we doing here? Like, are we rocking with this thug? I guess we're thugging. I mean, I feel like ever since January 6th, these folks, these Republicans and people are like thugging out with him. They're going to ride him till the wheels fall off. And you know, listen, they standing 10 toes down for they person. You know, it is what it is. But we don't know. Apparently, there's conversation about delays in this appeal situation, because the reality is, before there can be an actual appeal, there has to be a sentencing. Like, he doesn't have anything to appeal right now. He has to first get sentenced, okay, because that's part of the conviction, right? The jury found him guilty, but they also, now there's a conviction. He has to be convicted formally and be sentenced. Like, there's a whole legal procedure, and that's not going to happen until July. So then that has to happen, and then there has to be an appeals. But the way that the courts play, it's summer break. These people taking breaks. These people want to go on vacation. These folks ain't really trying to be out here dealing with him. Trump is not in a position where he needs to get an immediate appeal. This is not a situation that involves voting. It doesn't involve any major, situations, there's a likelihood that he's probably not going to go behind bars. So the question becomes, like, why do we have to speed this up? Like, why do we got to do this now? Like, why do we have to speed this up? Like, what is the actual reason why the courts need to speed any of this up? There's none. Because the reason why they need to speed it up has nothing to do with them, and it's all to do with Trump. And that's not the court's problem. So, yeah, will he? I mean, the fact is he has to take it to appeals, various courts that are, many of these are Democratic in New York, are Democratic groups. I mean, I don't even think it rises to the occasion for him to go to the Supreme Court with it. Like, this dude is, like, hang it up. Hang it up. He should be happy that some other trials didn't happen, because I personally believe that if the things would, according to schedule, I predict that Trump would have been found guilty in other cases too. Because now that he's already been convicted, there's a precedent that's set now where other future jurors might not be as scared. What that jury did in Manhattan was courageous, because there is a moment where they could have been like, yo, do we want to be the people that convict a U.S. president? Do we want to be doing this because of everything that could come with it? It takes a lot of courage, because they could have because if they would have said not guilty, that would have been fucked up. But personally, I would have been like, I could understand why they did that. Not because they necessarily believed in that he was innocent, but because they might have feared retaliation or other issues. So for them to really double down and stand on business to still find this man guilty because they believed he was guilty and they knew he was guilty, that speaks volumes. That's courageous to me. That's courage. And so to me, that jury, they did their big one, and it was right. That being said, the Trump campaign continues to go on. There's a lot of there's a lot of vice presidential prospects out there. Tim Scott's trying to get attention. So there's some billionaire, this white male billionaire that's apparently interested. I think there's only been one woman that's been brought up. That is the congresswoman that's in New York that's been obsessing over the University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, over this DEI crap. Stefanik, I think, yes, Elaine Stefanik, I believe her name is. And Elise Stefanik, and she's a congresswoman. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. She's 39 years old. She'll be 40 next month. And people think that she is definitely trying to be Trump's VP pick or nominee. She's Jewish. She is the 4th ranking House Republican. She's a fairly young woman. She went to Harvard. She's, married. There's a lot of chatter about her potentially being that person. We didn't hear anything about Nikki Haley. It don't look like that's going to happen. But there's another guy who's been in the news, and this is a black man, another black man who's interested. He is a congressman from Florida, and that is, Byron Donalds, who has really been pushing a certain rhetoric, entertaining this whole bullshit around black families were more unified and better off during Jim Crow. And the former RNC chair, who's a black man, said, stop this crap, because they basically, it's a lot. Even Al Sharpton then jumped in and said, how can you even live with yourself? He's been dragged repeatedly because he basically implied that black people were better off under Jim Crow. And that's just what it is. Like, this is his argument, because he has this argument that, he's arguing that, Jim Crow created stronger black families. And there's been also several, and he said this in Philadelphia. Philly's always got the mess, baby. There was some pro-Trump event in Philadelphia. He still does not have a headquarters in Philadelphia, for clarity. Trump still does not have any remote satellite campaign offices across the country compared to the Biden campaign. But there was some event and he made these off-comment remarks. But Byron Donalds has had a long repeated time of making these types of remarks. This has just been a continuation. And it's just like, dude, fuck off. Like, this is just like, what are you talking about? Like, but again, it's the argument. I'm trying my best to make this make sense. It doesn't make sense. But his argument is like, okay, back in the days when I guess black people didn't have any rights, there was the black family, and I can't even, this don't make no fucking, I don't know. There's no reason here, y'all. I just can't. I don't even know where to go with this because people were fucking enslaved. People were disenfranchised. I don't know how black families were. What, they were together because they were together? Like, I just don't. He argues they were Republicans, but we all know that black Republicans under during the Jim Crow era are not the Republicans of today. Like, there was a shift after after the New Deal. Like, we know this. Like, why are we still trying to say, well, black people were Republicans back in this? It's like, come on, y'all, like, enough, right? There's just all of these, like, really, again, intellectually dishonest remarks. So there's been several people that's tried to grill him, of course. I mean, to be very clear, Byron Donalds is married to a white woman. And why I bring this up is because, sir, you couldn't even have the marriage you currently have in the Jim Crow era. So what do you mean about black families? Do you consider yourself having a black family right now? I'm not here to say yes or no. He's been married for over 20 years. My question is that, do you believe you have a black family? I mean, he considers himself to be a black man. Your family technically would have not been even possible. Like, literally, if you was caught with a white woman, the white woman that you're married to, back then in that era, you would have been lynched. Like, that is a fact. Like, I'm not saying that to be sarcastic or be an asshole. I am literally saying that history tells us if we're going to keep talking about Jim Crow, let's talk about Jim Crow. If we're going to talk about that era, let's talk about that era. There was no passing love, Virginia. There was none of that. There was no legalities to interracial marriage. There wasn't. And the consequences for black men like Byron Donalds in that era, right? That era would have been, the consequences would have been lynching. He would have been killed. So I'm trying to figure out, do you not consider yourself having a black family because you're married to a white woman? Do you not see yourself in the conversation that you're comparing yourself to? And do you not recognize that the legalities around interracial marriage and the laws were passed by people that you're now trying to criticize and go against? Like, make it make the fuck sense. I just find it, like, I don't even find it anything anymore. I think this is bullshit. And so, right? Here's my thing, though, with Democrats and a lot of these surrogates. They are definitely juicing this up. And I get it. It's politics. So, of course, they are. But what annoys me the most is just how, okay, again, Byron Donalds is wrong. It's bullshit. And even, Michael Steele, the black former RNC chair, look, he was a Republican, but he is very anti-Trump. He doesn't fuck with Trump. He's back in the day when I guess Republicans were somewhat moderately digestible. I mean, they never was for people like myself. But he definitely has been critical of Trump and this era of Trumpness and these people who support Trump. And so he just was like, yo, stop this crap. Like, he's like, these type of arguments are just like not here. Cut it out. Like, this is bullshit. Like, I'm not even about to, like, we just got to stop this. And look, like, pointless. Let them deal with it. But now, what has happened is the Biden campaign has been very aggressive. They've been reaching out to black Democrats across the country to go on radio shows and talk to the press and talk to media to speak on this. And they want to, of course, use what Byron Donald say to say, look, Trump trying to send y'all back to Jim Crow and this, that, and the third. Let me explain something to you all. Again, for the umpteenth time, Black voters are not listening to Byron Donalds. I can't even say his name right. Byron Donalds. They're not listening to him. He does not have an influence. See, the rhetoric is not there. I'm about to go in. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. It's go time. Not show time. It's go time. Black voters do not listen to Byron Donalds. They don't care what he says. They didn't need Byron Donalds to say the quiet part out loud. We have always been saying this shit about Trump. Actually, what's funny, Democrats, and especially Biden campaign people, is that we've been calling Donald Trump a racist long before y'all wanted to go there. Because y'all are so scared to call other white people racist. But it's so easy for you all to use the black man who said the anti-black shit and go after this black man because you're too scared to go against the white man. Go at Trump. Call Trump a white supremacist. I double dog dare you. Call Trump a white supremacist. Call Trump a racist. And I'm talking about the President of the United States. Put this man in that hot seat. Double down on it. And really lean in it. And I think they're trying to now in this second iteration, but they just really are so scared to really do the big one on this man. And it's just so annoying because they always try to find an alley hoop. So they'll find who he's affiliated with. They'll find other people. They don't want to go there, but maybe maybe they don't want to go there because Biden has had some problematic histories and things he done said. And that comes up and they're right? Biden has said racist stuff. Biden has been very problematic when it comes to race and these issues. So it's kind of like, if we're not going to, maybe that explains why he doesn't want to say it, but it's like, if you're not going to go there, then don't try it, right? And that's what annoys me, is that they consistently try it. Like they try it. They try to imply things. Like everybody's implying things. Go for the juggler or don't at all. And stop using black people as your prop or your insulator to push these messages. Like especially with black media, black folks do not need you to keep banging on their head the level of racism that Trump has. What they want more from the Biden campaign is, what are you going to do about it? And again, taking us seriously. Like taking us as serious voters. Like all of this pandering, all of this lowbrow fear-mongering shit, like stop. The reason why black voters some of them are kind of iffy about Biden is not like because they're going to go vote for Trump. They're just like not enthusiastic because everything that's been driving the Biden campaign has just been telling us how bad Trump is. Yes, but tell me how good Biden is. And, the reality is that there is a disconnect with the way that voters have been receiving a lot of the issues with his work. So one of the interesting things is that there's been a conversation, New York Times have reported on this, about support versus awareness of Biden's policies. So a lot of Biden's big policies has a lot of massive support. People support restricting junk fees. People support reducing the federal deficit. People support capping insulin costs. People support passing a bipartisan semiconductor bill. People support restricting China's use of AI chips. People support suing big tech companies. Americans support passing a bipartisan infrastructure bill. Majority of Americans support deploying more border agents at the border. Majority of Americans overwhelmingly support increasing oil and gas drilling. Anyway, many Americans support increasing police funding. Anyway, many Americans support pardoning marijuana offenses. Many Americans support easing sanctions on Venezuelan oil. Many Americans support taxing raising taxes on the rich. Many Americans support striking workers, workers who strike. Many Americans support giving clean energy credits. Many Americans support giving clean energy credits, sending aid to the Ukraine, expanding medication around abortion, canceling student debt, banning some transgender restrictions. 48% of Americans don't. Everything that I named, okay, with the exception of banning some transgender restrictions, over 50% of Americans agree on that. And I would say over 50% of what I said had over 70% of them in support. But everything I named, except banning some transgender restrictions, according to a poll that was done by over 1,000 registered voters across the country, that is the polls. However, while I said that I named all those policies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So that was 20 policies. Now, 19 of them had over 50% of support by the American public. The only one that did not is this banning of some transgender restrictions. That was the lowest. However, all that being said, awareness. 46% of people are aware that Biden wants to reduce the federal deficit. 49% of people are aware that he wants to cap Medicare drug costs. 40% of people are aware that he wants to restrict China's use of AI chips. 48% of Americans are aware about him supporting suing big tech companies. 43% of them are aware that he's trying to deploy more border agents. 48% of them are aware that he's interested in increasing oil and gas drilling. 46% of them are aware that he's interested in increasing police funding. And 42% of them are aware that he's interested in easing sanctions on Venezuelan oil. So that is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of those big issues that are widely supported by Americans. Most Americans are in that regard, most Americans are not aware that this president supports those things, that they share common ground with the president on that. That's a problem. And he has a problem with his messaging. And so he needs to go out in this campaign and focus on the things that clearly voters are not aware that he supports. I know what Biden supports. I do the reading. As you can tell in the pauses of some of the stuff that he supports, that a majority of Americans support with him. I don't support those things personally, but a vast majority of the issues that that Biden supports, I do support. And most Americans are in favor of them as well. So why is there this disconnect with people in assuming that Biden is a problem when really Biden's stuff is very neoliberal, to be honest, and very much so speaks to the current culture where we are. So the fact that a lot of Americans are still not aware of his position on some of these issues, and they actually think the opposite, that's a campaign problem. So Biden has to get out and speak more about those issues that many Americans still think or are not aware that he's in favor of. There's a messaging problem. I digress. So, all that being said, Biden is also dealing with Hunter Biden, his son. You know, on this podcast, we've spent a lot of time talking about Hunter Biden and the drama that Hunter Biden is going through. But his father has said publicly that he would not pardon him if his son was convicted or sentenced to jail. He's not going to intervene in the system. So, there's been a lot of investigations into Hunter Biden. None of them are specifically relevant to the president, Joe Biden, but there's always, that overarching, conspiracy theory from Trump about it. And it's like, Trump, focus on your own legal issues and your current conviction and hope that your sentencing is not anything extreme or crazy. Hope for that rather than obsessing over Hunter. It's so funny because it's like they're spending all this time talking about the son without recognizing that there's other things going on. So, Biden made it official. People were like, how could he say that about his son? Listen, this man is run for the president of the United States. If he said that he was going to pardon his Nepo baby son, there would be more people going ape shit about that than actually, frustrated or surprised about the pardon mention. Listen, we don't know what he would really do, but listen, if Biden say not gonna pardon his son, maybe he like, I'm not gonna pardon my son because my son be fucking up too much. And I even gave that guy so many chances. I ain't about to sit up here and keep on having to bail him out. That's probably the logic there, but we don't know. But here's what I do know. And I'm happy that this is getting a lot of attention because I've been so annoyed with a lot of the conversations around certain advocacy groups that wanted us to pardon, speaking of pardons, right? Want us to pardon and get the president to address all these issues with the Fearless Fund. And not the Fearless Fund, with pardoning Marilyn Mosby. And in the end, she didn't even have, we didn't have all these issues. So here's the situation with the Fearless Fund. A lot of people have been following this, but this happened this week. It's a big controversy. But a U.S. Federal Court of Appeals panel basically suspended a venture capital firm's grant program for Black women business owners. They ruled that a conservative group is likely to prevail in its lawsuit claiming that the program is discriminatory. It's sad. The AP reported on this, Associated Press reported on this. The ruling against them, they're based in Atlanta, is another victory, sadly, for this conservative groups that's been basically pushing all these legal battles against corporate diversity programs that they believe target dozens of companies. And these programs are targeting, tons of companies and government institutions. This case in particular against the Fearless Fund was led by the American Alliance for Equal Rights, which is led by Edward Blum, who was the conservative active that pushed that Supreme Court case against affirmative action and ended affirmative action in college admissions. So, I knew from day one, and we all knew this, that the plan always was that they would, after affirmative action got shut down, the new agenda would be to go after these targeted funding programs that were also doing quote unquote affirmative action in other spaces. So whereas they did it in the college campuses, they're now applying the same arguments and logic to other institutions across the country. It's getting serious. Here's the thing. Like I've always told people, this is fucked up. It's unfortunate. It's heartbreaking. It's all of that. But there are ways to get around it. I know it sucks that people have to do it that way, but I'm noticing organizations that are softening their language and making it clear, right, where they stand and how they select. They won't say it, but they emphasize it in various ways. So they'll do demographic reports, research. Like they'll say it's optional. I'm gonna just put this out here. Think about it like this, right? A lot of grants that I've seen for diversity groups are not specifically saying we're giving money to Black organizations only, because nowadays they're scared that, they could be stopped from doing that, right? But what they're doing is they're doing things like, let's do interviews. Let's ask questions that are just for research purposes, quote unquote. Like they'll just say, it's optional, but, can you tell us your racial identity? Can you tell us your gender? Can you tell us whatever? You don't have to, but, it's an option. I've noticed these applications has begun to do that more, where they're not saying we're giving to black-led organizations, but they say things like we're supporting social justice causes and equity. And it's like, okay, that doesn't mean that white people can't apply or they don't run those organizations. It's just that they can't outright say these things because they know. So they ask questions like the demographic or the diversity of your boards and organizations. They ask these other things. And so in a way, you just have a sense of knowing that there's other ways to ensure diversity happens without necessarily being as explicit. That's fucked up. It's messed up that people can't be explicit about these things. But it is going to be the nature of the game. And we know how to navigate that and be strategic to do it because, to be honest, racist white people do it every time. Racist white people have learned ways. I mean, we see Jim Crow. We see these policies that was created. Like, they know how to create waves to get what they want and create loopholes. And what I'm saying is there's great loopholes in how this whole shutting down DEI programs thing is there. Because at the end of the day, we're in a very hyper technological society where you can Google people, you can solicit information via surveys, you can do virtual interviews, you could just, like I said, Google people, and you can be able to figure out who you want to select and curate stuff for without necessarily, getting yourself in legal ramifications. And so, yeah, the Fearless Fund, what happened to them is messed up. But we also know there are other ways to be able to support Black women and fund Black women projects that at the same time does not restrict the ability to support them, right? So, for example, hypothetical. Like, let's say there's a group like Shea Moisturizer, which is largely a Black hair product, right, for women. Let's say they say we're going to do a fund to support women or support diversity and gender equality, some shit. Let's say they do that. They don't ask for the race, but they're asking people to submit a photo of their best hairstyle. There's other ways to find out, is what I'm saying. There's other ways to create and address equity. It sucks that it has to be so much more strategy and maneuvering, but there's ways to do it. And I'm not saying there's ways to discriminate, because I don't believe it's discrimination. I don't believe in reverse discrimination, because the funny part is, which isn't even that funny, is that everything that everything that this group is doing against the Fearless Fund and the arguments they're making were literally the same arguments that was used on the opposite end to confront and actually address real racial discrimination. The logic was, let the Black people have resources to support their own people. Don't ask us for shit, or we don't need to do it. Now, because it's so funny, because like the whole logic was, leave it to Black people, leave it to marginalized groups to support each other and help each other. Now, they want to open it up so everybody can get support. But the ask is for Black and brown entities to give and provide resources to white groups, to consider white people in these conversations. But it's like, that on the other end of this, you're asking for white institutions in an adverse way to consider Black people for things that may or may not be something that we support or we're accustomed to. So, it's just one of those things where it's like, now you feel like you're being left out, even though survey says the stats, the money, the support, everything else is we're still in this disproportion. Like, they're making arguments like, oh, in the past we had this, but now those rules are irrelevant. Well, you acknowledge that they were necessary because you use the argument that those policies that address segregation, address discrimination, that you felt like they were necessary then to level the playing field. And now you want to take them away. And I'm just like, so are you assuming that everything's equitable now? That now everything is good now? Yeah, bullshit. But that's part of what's driving some of that conversation and rhetoric. So it's unfortunate, but we'll stay tuned and we'll see if the president will eventually, really address this and speak on it, to be honest. But the conservatives are conserving. That's why I just don't anyway. I don't understand why people are trying to really continue to entertain conservatives as if they are like mean well for us. They don't mean well for us in anything. Whether they support Trump or not, I don't care. So, this upcoming Thursday will be the season finale of Philadelphia City Council Live. I didn't say the series finale. I said the season finale. So, we'll be back up on September 12th. We'll be back in City Council, will be back in session because the new, there's going to be this big old summer break. City Council members will still be working, but there won't be no council sessions because everybody's going to, wind down a little bit to a certain extent. Mr. Johnson will get his Fridays off. Well, he doesn't have to, his Friday, I think his Fridays will be off, which is so, so great because then we can just, travel and go to things. Like, we're literally going to go to Delaware this upcoming weekend, and it's going to be so romantic. So we can just get away because it's like, like I could imagine working on Fridays personally. But what's been interesting is that nonetheless the budget will officially get passed this upcoming Thursday, and it'll be the last day of City Council before we come back in September. So for those who like 96.1, 900 AM Progressive Black Talk Media, WRD Radio, your boy will be out as far as not on air on Thursdays because City Council will not be in session. And so, yeah. Well, the beautiful news is that Mayor Sherelle Parker's budget is happening. She's going to be able to do her triage program. No word on whatever, Jeffrey Young was doing in his pursuit to subpoena her and their administration. Like, that is just kind of his, like, really falling flat. He has not really led he proposed the resolution, but the resolution, the hearings, all the things have not been brought up. He's tabled it, I believe 2 times already, or maybe just, 2. It's been 2 weeks and we have not heard anything since his initial, public, I don't want to call it a stunt, but I mean, it is what it is. At this point, he hasn't. And maybe there's been conversations. Maybe there's been peace and resolve, which I personally hope is the case. I hope that everybody is getting along. There's some resolve there. There's some peace there, because I would hate for the drama to keep going. So I'm really happy that there's that maybe, we don't know officially, but maybe cooler heads resolved and this went away. So, but the big thing is that there's going to be a lot of great money. I mean, this is a really great budget. It went over a couple of millions over. I think 79 million, they said, or 72 million it went over. That's a lot of money. But the beautiful thing is, it seems like everybody got a lot of what they wanted in this budget. So, in West Philly, because Jamie Gauthier decided to vote in favor of the budget, it's getting unanimously passed this upcoming Thursday, because she not buck against trend. She was able to get a lot of resources to support affordable housing in West Philly. So for people who is worried about the UC townhomes and how they get demolished and taken off, there's going to be now more money to support affordable housing across the district. And that's good news. That's good to hear. We love to see progress. And Sherelle Parker has really been big on, the mayor has been really big on, affordable housing units and mixed in living and things of that nature. So I'm not surprised by that. The triage center, the triage program that the mayor is trying to do regarding addressing the opioid epidemic, citywide efforts, that's gotten bulked up, of course. I'm thinking about all the other things in the budget. I'm just thinking about all the big headlines. There's just going to be a lot of funding going across the board to help public services and resources. And so I'm happy the budget's getting passed. There was a lot of people that was, definitely bluffing and acting like there was going to be this huge showdown and things. And when it's all said and done, the mayor gets what she wants. And she is. So I think overall that was a good look. And I'm happy to hear it. Now, I'm going to address this, even though it doesn't directly impact me, but it's been very sad. University of the Arts, UArts, which is an iconic school, abruptly shut down, made its last day this past Friday. It's been sad to watch everything unfold. And it's just been, it's I know a lot of people went there, in Philly. There's just an abruption. There's been lawsuits, class action lawsuits already being filed against the university for just appending, incoming students. Like there were students who got accepted, who, signed offer letters, who made this their choice. And then for them to just abruptly shut everything down, there's gotta be some these people got laid off, all of this stuff. There's gotta be some more some deep digging. So I'm definitely gonna keep myself alert on what's happening there, but the lawsuits will continue to build up as they go, and it was just really messed up what they did. Other things that's got messed up and got people in their bag. Diddy has officially got his honorary degree taken away from Howard University. I'm just here for it. And they also made a mention that people were making these little people are so annoying. They were like, and are they gonna give him? Is they gonna give him back his money too? They said, well, there'll be no need to because he never ever gave him that money. They gave him that money, and there was some wishy-washiness by Howard University, to be clear, a while back, because they didn't want to publicly embarrass him or I guess judge him, but they literally didn't let him get away with acting like he had already given them the money. So, in addition to him getting his honorary degree, Diddy had proposed and pledged he was going to give $1 million to Howard University, which is his alma mater. He didn't graduate from there per se, but he did spend some time there. And he's got this plan. He was always proposing he's going to give $1 million to this to support these scholarships and all this other stuff. But in the end, after many times of capping, he never, everybody kept wondering where the money go, what happened to the money. It never came to them. Howard never got the money, which is not too surprising. So they were like, in their best shadiest way, was like, oh, and there'll be no continuation of any programs because we hadn't received the money from him, at all. So it was like that joster, and I was here for it. So fuck Diddy, and that's what he gets. Now moving on to the dream, the dream, the dream, the dream. This was a lot, but again, not surprised because the dream has been a nightmare. Um, the New York Times had broke the story, and this is crazy to me. His name is Terrius Gistido Diamante. It's such an ugly name. I get why he calls it the dream. But a former protege says that he entangled her in an abusive relationship and he is being accused of rape. He has called the allegations untrue and defamatory. And, he's a top songwriter and producer for Beyonce, for Rihanna, and for other stars. He goes by The Dream. And he's been accused of rape and sexual battery in a lawsuit. Shania Monroe, which is Shanaz Monroe, but she performs, her name is Shanaz Monroe, but she performs as Shania Monroe, says in her lawsuit that in 2015, he used promises to promote her career to entangle her in an abusive relationship. And this is being reported by New York Times. In an abusive relationship in which he repeatedly forced her to have sex, strangled her, and once made a video recording of an intimate encounter and threatened to show it to others. Apparently blackmailed her. It's so sad because many of his many hits that The Dream has done was Umbrella, which is one of my all-time favorite songs of all time. Y'all know that. Justin's song Baby, Mariah Carey's Touch My Body, and he's been known to have a really close relationship creatively with Beyonce. He was a songwriter and producer for, again, one of my all-time favorite songs, Single Ladies. And he did Break My Soul as well, and was working on each of her studio albums since 2008. So they go back 15 years creatively in the industry. He has he has said that the claims are untrue and defamatory. He says, I oppose all forms of harassment and have always strived to help people realize their career goals. As someone committed to making a positive impact on my fellow artists and the world at large, I am deeply offended and saddened by these allegations. Now, she's 33 years old. Um, I believe I believe the dream is the age difference, which is wild because she's not that far from my age. So the dream is 46 years old. She's 33 years old. Um they so there is a 13-year age gap between them. Well, he's going to be 47 in September. So there is a 14-year age gap. If this happened in 2015, she's 33 years old. That would mean that she would have been roughly like 23, 20. She probably 24, 23, 24 years old. So very young, trying to have a career for herself. And she's now speaking her truth, and, you know, I believe her. I believe her. Um, it's, it's, it's maddening, it's disappointing, it's really disappointing. And, he, his relationship with, um, there's a story he did earlier this year talking about being on the Oscar shortlist for the work he did on um, the Color Purple. He talks about working with Beyonce. He said he'd give his kidney to Beyonce. It's just wild. Um, what a fucking disappointment. But here's the reason why I have reservations about the dream and why people don't talk enough about his past is that the dream, had a past of abuse. Um, people forget that he was married to Christina Milian, and during their divorce, she talked about having real abusive experiences. Um, and so it's just interesting because she said Marriage to the Dream back in 2011 was hell. They had a very messy divorce. This is over 10 years ago. She's, she hasn't really been out there publicly, but there's been several articles that, dealt with abuse. And Essence had reported at one point in time that, he cheated on her, apparently with his assistant, which that was a mess. Um, there was a lot of things. Like, for example, he had basically did an interview with Essence.com many years ago where he said that he did not want to help out with his daughter, Violet, because it would create expectations. He said he was sorry for leading everyone into thinking everything was fine and okay. He apologized publicly and said, "May God bless the dream. He is clearly an unhappy person on the inside." And then somebody said, "Seems like a PR move. It is too late. The dream. We have seen your real side." Like, he was a jerk back in 2011 in the process of ex-wife. That divorce was really messy. This happened in 2011. The divorce was very messy. There's been multiple interviews back then about the split. Everyone says it's because of the affair. Christina Milian said the dream had many affairs and that caused a split. Christina Milian, there was a diss record that he tried to do. I mean, he was a total ass. And I think a lot of people forget it because it was such a long time ago. And The Dream was a hot producer. Like, no one's going to take that away. He was nominated for Grammys. He's won a Grammy, a couple of Grammys, I believe. Like, no one's going to take that, right? But this man was trash many, many years ago. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, are we that surprised? Are we that surprised by a lot of the nonsense? I mean, it's kind of upsetting to hear it. He has 8 Grammys. He's been nominated 21 times. Um, he won like 3 of them this year. He, with Renaissance album, one of my favorite albums of all time, best R&B song for Cuff It. He co-wrote that. He won for, Break My Soul. He won for the album. Like, it's just crazy. But like again, people can be monsters, you know. Um, he co-wrote the rap song Savage featuring, Megan Thee Stallion. Like it's it's just it's infuriating, it's frustrating. Um, but even worse, there was another report, and a lot of people don't talk about this enough, but there was another report about, you know, um, another incident where he was arrested. And people kind of, you know, that kind of went into a situation too. He was arrested on assault charges. This happened in 2020. He was accused of violently attacking his ex-girlfriend, and he turned himself into the NYPD in 2020. He was accused of attacking his ex-girlfriend in 2013. She claims he assaulted, strangled, and threatened her while she was pregnant during an argument at the Plaza Hotel. Don't that sound familiar? I mean, both of these women, come on. I mean, come on. He posted a $20,000 cash bail. They said it was false allegations. The woman who he was with was a woman named Lydia Nam. This man has problems. I'm trying to tell y'all that I believe these women. I just feel like how many accusations of strangling women, abusing women, it appears that this happened around the same time. He's currently married right now. He's been married for 10 years to his current wife. He was married to Nivea first. He was married to Nivea, if y'all remember, if you mess with my man. She was married to him from 2004 to 2008. Then in 2009, he got with Christine Milian. It only lasted for 2 years. And now he's been married for the past 10 years to La Leon Martinez, which meant that this woman he was messing with, that was his protege, he was messing with that woman while he was married 1 year into his current wife. Talented, but delusional and deranged. And the crazy part about all of this was that number one, he's been trash. But number two, this man was at the Roots picnic performing. And I didn't even go see him because I didn't know all the details and problems, but I just knew he was a problem. And I've always had this eeriness about him. And it's just like, yeah. Like, I feel like people are like, well, why is this coming out now? Because now hip hop is having that long overdue reckoning. Now Diddy, now other producers, like these. This is why when people keep saying, why does these other men speak out against Diddy? Because they are fucking Diddy. Like, not fucking, well, they could be fucking Diddy in that way, but they are basically Diddy. A lot of those men are like that. And I think more women are feeling comfortable sharing their stories. And because Cassie is the embodiment of a lot of young women who were vulnerable and basically taking advantage of this industry, trying to have stardom, misguided, impressionable, all of the things, right? And maybe they also partook in things that were problematic at the same time, like no one's divorcing them from accountability from that. But we also know that these women were prey. And so it's no surprise to me that this is now becoming the moment where a lot of people, and there's going to be more, and we're going to continue to be disgusted and outraged, but God damn it, we're here. And I hope that this isn't a moment, but a movement. And I hope more and more women just continue to speak out and openly about this, because we need to know, and something needs to happen, and there needs to be accountability. So that's where I stand on that. As far as scams go, I guess we're on a pattern here, right? Abusers, scams, it all, right? There is this big story that came out in Rolling Stone about these hip hop scams. And it's heartbreaking to hear. But also, again, not surprising. But there are some big name artists that are out here doing this, and I'm going to name them because we cite our sources and we name names and we put it on the floor. Um, these scams, before I get into who's doing it, these scams basically is a situation where um, there's artists, these artists basically do this in the DMs on Instagram. They get into people's DMs. They basically ask them. They see an artist, right? They're on social media. They're fishing for fresh talent, new artists that are just trying to make a name for themselves. And they want to solicit them. So there's various things they do with this marketing scheme. They get in these DMs of these artists. They say, "Listen, I like your music. Let's work together." And these artists are like, these incoming, fresh, impressionable artists are like, "Oh shit, this person reached out to me and want to work with me. I want to do something." And there's all kind of things that they tell them to do. There's very pay for play, payola, illegal shit, problematic shit. But a lot of this, apparently, before I get into the intensive details and I start naming these names, a lot of this was misleading, misguiding. People, was scammed into doing something they thought was going to give them a break. And then what ends up happening is basically nothing. But the reality is a lot of this isn't illegal because a lot of it is like non-contractual. And so some of this is not fine line, negotiations. There is some laws that say, look, there is some type of formal agreement. But these are verified accounts of these celebrities. Like, these are like verified accounts. These are the legit artists that are doing it. The artists that have been doing this, that was named in this Rolling Stone article, which is called They Thought Top Artists Were Giving Them Their Big Break. But was it all a, quote, menu of bullshit? And this is by Cheyenne Roundtree, who's an incredible writer. I've known her work for a while. She was at the Daily Beach, then she went to Rolling Stone, kind of like I did. And, she kept it 100. The artists that were named in this article was Neo, Fat Joe, The Game. Like, the shit is crazy. Like, these are big name artists that was doing this. And I was gagged, y'all, by the tactics. But these were people who did this to singers. And some of the stuff, like other people who did it too, was Jadakiss, Nick Cannon, Dave East. Basically, they were promoting, there were several of independent musicians that spoke. There were 12 of them, a dozen of them, that basically said that they were in talks in the verified accounts and the DMs of these rappers and musicians and claimed they were left empty-handed after committing to a deal. They were told that they would promote their music for various amounts. Some of this stuff was like, look, there were conversations, some of the people that did this, there was the rapper, Jeremiah, Bones, that said that Gilly the Kid had hit him up. This rapper said that Gilly the Kid did this too, was getting it in their DMs. But what was interesting about this article was that none of the people who was accused of doing this, like Gilly the Kid and others, did not reply to a request for comment. But basically, they would hype up their work, get in their DMs, and they would think they were punked. But there were screenshots and recordings that would show the messages that were sent by these people. And so some of this would be that they were asking for relatively small sums of money, provide essential worthless promotion, or they would just disappear after the money hit their accounts. And this was through certain cash apps. They would often say, they would ask for people to pay for a slot on a mixtape. And so they said those who paid for a slot on a mixtape often didn't land on the artist's verified playlist pages. Instead, they would wind up on the artist's unverified SoundCloud account or other SoundCloud accounts. And this is some rapper stuff. There was an issue that said, for example, The Game. This guy said he paid The Game. Some young rapper said he paid The Game nearly $1,000 for a slot on his mixtape in April 2021 that and only to receive 300 and 635 streams when that happened. And let me explain these mixtapes. Let me explain a little bit of what was happening here. This Boston rapper named Jennifer Sanchez says she paid the gang $5,000 for an intro on her song and a video promotion. She went back and forth with him. She finally received the audio of the rapper introducing her track and a since deleted clip of him playing video games while absentmindedly nodding along to her song in the background. She said she posted the video on Instagram with smiley emojis as the caption, but she said she really felt fucking disappointed because she said she felt like they were trying to milk people for as much as they can at the same time. She said, I'm so upset about the situation. The way it was going, I was like, fuck you guys. I'm scrapping this. I don't even need you. Like, that was her energy. Like, that's how she felt she was. She said, Nick Cannon did it to her. Another artist, his name was Brian Berry, but he goes by Movin Maserati. It's a lot. He said that he's a father of 24 kids, but he can relate to Nick Cannon because Nick Cannon's a father of 12 kids. He's a father of 24 kids, 16 of his own, but he's a stepdad to 8. And says beyond music, he shared common ground with the father of 12, Nick Cannon. Well, that's a lot of kids. But basically, they agreed on a payment of $900 for an intro and a video shout out. And basically, he said once something was sent, Cannon never allegedly followed through on the agreement, despite Berry's efforts to follow up with him. So another issue happened. Neo popped up in this guy's DMs to discuss a promotion offer. This guy, the same guy who got screwed over by Nick Cannon, opted for a $500 mixtape placement, asking what genre among his rap, all that. Neo ignored the question, said send me your best track, and it only pulled in 500 streams. So let me explain what is this mixtape thing and how this has been working, right? Well, what happened is that these artists are trying to get traction, trying to get their music traction. These musicians, right, that are on various playlists like SoundCloud and other things, they are very popular and they have a thing called playlist. And so, like when you guys listen to like YouTube Red, or you listen to, SoundCloud, or you listen to whatever, these artists create their own little playlist of stuff that they like to listen to, right? And so basically they will put songs and they will curate a playlist of stuff that they like. And fans, who like them will listen to that playlist. But those playlists are curated by the artist. They make their own little thing they like. Well, if you're a big artist and you create one of these playlists on Spotify or something like that, whatever the playlist is, you basically are going to get some exposure to an artist. What the issue is, though, is that the verified playlists, let's say the verified playlist of the artist that has millions of followers and hundreds of thousands listens to, right? People are thinking, I'm going to get on the Neo playlist or whatever, where millions and hundreds of thousands of people are listening to those playlists or whatever like that. I'm gonna get some buzz, right? I'm gonna get some exposure. What's happening is that these artists are putting them on a playlist that they quote unquote are curating, but it's not the master playlist. It's not the big playlist. It's actually some corny, random, unofficial playlist that may or not be listened to by any fans because they're not subscribing to those pages. They're subscribing to the main ones. So these people are getting ripped off. They're getting ripped off. It's a complete scam. And then what's also worse is that they're asking for these little piecemeal amounts of money, right? But they're also doing other incentives like, for this amount of money, for $5,000, I'm going to do a little video of me listening to your music, liking your music. They may or may not like the music, right? But they're going to pretend they do because they want to get some clout, right? So they'll pay personal money to get this artist or this person to listen and like their music. But let's be also clear. These artists are predatory because they're going in the DMs of these impressionable artists. So it's not like the artists are like, because I know on the outside looking in, someone will say, well, why would you just give this money to this person to make this person do this? The crazy part is that the artists, these celebrities, are making it look like they like this person's music. They like who this person is, and they want to work with them, and they want to give them a deal. Imagine though, we're talking $5,000, $900, $500. Think about it. Like some of these artists, I'm gonna keep it 100. A lot of these artists ain't that rich like they claim to be. Now, some of them definitely are, right? And I think Neo has some money. Clearly, Nick Cannon has some money. But at the end of the day, if you're doing this to, let's say, 100 artists at any given time, and you're doing multiple things, right, on a regular basis, you're making some serious bank. Like if you're doing, let's say you do 100 artists and you're ripping them off for $900. That's $90,000 just off of breaking the hearts of a couple of artists. Like you just say, look, I'm going to get 100 artists. I'm going to go into DMs on a regular rotating basis of impressionable artists and basically try to get them to pay me $100, whatever I want to get. Maybe even in some cases, $5,000. Let's say a median of like $2,000. If they get 100 artists, impressionable artists, to give them anything around that range, they're making some serious bank off of this fucking grift. And that doesn't even require much labor. They're making money low key that they could get for a concert gig or a showcase. Because let's be real, some of these artists aren't getting like extreme money to go perform at a show. They're not getting like $1 million. Like they're not Beyonce or Taylor Swift. They're not, half of them ain't even getting, $100,000 before. Like some of these artists are not getting, they're getting some okay money, right? If you do a couple of tour dates, you can make some good money if you're an artist. I'm not going to say that about them, but could you imagine if you can also have a side hustle of making a couple $100,000 through some Cash App shit, through some like corny basic stuff like this? Like that's the stuff. And even Chris Brown's out here. Chris Brown's actually going on tour. Chris Brown's not, to be clear, affiliated with this, but Chris Brown's out here going on tour, charging fans out here $2,000 for meet and greets. Like there's photos of this man grabbing girls' booties. They're with their consent, taking pictures, holding them and squeezing their butts and holding their waist, like giving them boyfriend, girlfriend type of photos for $2,000 a pop. And Chris Brown could go to get about 25 or 50 fans for that VIP at multiple tour stops. That man is making ridiculous bank. And that doesn't even include the concert itself. That's just a fucking meet and greet. That man's making like $50,000 to $100,000 off of the meet and greet alone, in addition to the show. And he's doing sold out concerts. Okay. Like Chris Brown is an artist that can really do that. But these other like fans, these other like lesser than artists as far as fame goes, they're doing it this way. And so this hits home for me because my good friend, my bestie, who is a great, incredible artist and musician, Jamarcus, literally had an experience like this. He did not fall for the scam because, listen, who is his best? Like, his bestie is going to make sure he's not going to fall for any of the okie doke. Of course not. Like, we that's what friends are for. But he has had situations where, we were talking about this other day, where radio stations, ain't gonna name no names, have slid in his DMs and have asked him to give him money, like to pay them to play their songs, his songs, on the radio. Like I was looking at, he was telling me about some DJ that was like, once you send in Spotify or Apple Music link to the song you want to play on air, I'm going to add you to a playlist. I'm not going to name the radio station, but the cost was, and it's a very known radio station, I'll say that much, a very known radio station across the country. The airplay, they said, was $100 for a week, for 2 weeks, $200, and $300 for a month. And they said the song will be played 3 times in a week. And they said, which deal you're down for. Let's start rocking you, tonight on blah, 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 blah. But basically, there are DJs that are going in there. And my bestie was like, child, everyone knows, even on the lowest industry budget standard, that it costs about $10,000 at minimum for real radio airplay. And that still doesn't guarantee anything. And plus, it's technically illegal, even though it is a common practice. So that's my bestie. We know how the industry works. So the fact that you're nickeling and diming, and these are those old DJs, child. So like they're out here like playing a song 3 times a week on a radio station a month, and you're charging 300. I mean, let's be real. This is a situation where, okay, that cost is not too expensive, but it's also like fucking nothing. Like you're literally throwing your money in a crapshoot. Like that is not going to do anything for an artist, an independent artist. Because what time are you playing those songs? Are you playing them at like 11 o'clock at night when like no one is up listening to the radio? Like, are you playing it at peak hours, like a special show? Like, are you gonna play it like at like 5 o'clock when everybody's in traffic trying to get home from work where people can actually hear the song? And then like 3 times a week, like how random is that? Like you could play that shit at like 11 a.m. at on a Wednesday night, and then you may play the next song at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. Like what? Like that's just like a big waste of money, no impact, no difference. But they're scamming young, impressionable artists that are basically naive, don't understand the game, and are scamming folks. And I have no respect for Gilly the Kid. Like, that's fucked up. Like, why are you playing these games and trying to squeeze money off of impressionable artists? Like, that's so fucked up. And Philadelphia should be embarrassed. Like, these types, and the fact that you have like, Rolling Stone magazine asked you for a comment. You didn't give a comment because that's the stunts. These dudes got screenshots on your ass of being in these young artists' DMs. This is fucking messed up. And this is the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, these are scams. Like, this is messed up. Like, there's no excuse for it. There's just no excuse for it. And so it's just really it's just really frustrating, what's happening. And it's really messed up. And it speaks volumes, and not a fan. This episode, it's a lot going on, isn't it? It's been a week, and you know what, this week's this week's Ernestly Speaking, this week's Ask Ernest is very telling, because you all have this is the most popular question that you all have for me this week. And I was like, oh, I didn't. So I'll tell you, I'm going to read it and you're going to know. What's up, Ernest? Hope all is well. I've been seeing your IG story about this Jay-Z situation, and I'm a little confused. Like, why don't people like vouchers? What's this whole drama? Like, is this Jay-Z giving the money or nah? Like, what is up with this? Question mark, question mark, question mark. I really want to know. I really respect your perspective on these issues, and I need to understand what the hell is going on with Jay-Z and this whole Philadelphia school shit. Thank you. Got you. So, here's the tea. Because I did post some things in my IG story, but I've been waiting to talk about this on my show, because I've been waiting for this for a minute. I've been waiting to talk about this whole scandal, because this is why media literacy matters. This is why journalism matters. This is why Ernestly Speaking matters. So this drama is a lot. So the narrative is, because I want to make sure I get all my ducks in a row, because I'm about to do my big one. And if I'm going to do my big one, I got to make sure I make it very clear to you all, because I don't want to hear no more about look at the stuff that Jay-Z do in the community. Jay-Z is just bad for the community. He's pollution. He's trash. Like Beyonce's husband is just a nightmare. And I'm really upset with, Tina Knowles, like Beyonce's mom, the mother-in-law. Like, you all, oh my goodness. Like, it's just annoying. So the narrative was Jay-Z's Rock Nation will spearhead an educational campaign in Philadelphia that helps students K through 12 from low-income households secure about $300 million in scholarships to attend the city's private schools. Okay, let me be clear for you all who are not in Pennsylvania. Let me break this down for you all who are not in Philly. Let me explain what the hell this all is. To be very clear, okay, the legislation that Jay-Z is pushing is a Republican, extreme conservative-led effort to basically fuck over public education. And the person at the helm of this is a man named Jeffrey Yass. Jeffrey Yass is a billionaire, a multi-billionaire. He's super fucking rich. He is the richest Pennsylvanian, okay? He's the richest person in Pennsylvania. This man funds a lot of far-right conservatives. He does fund some Democrats that support these types of problematic issues around public education. He's also being rumored to be a future Trump cabinet member. So if Trump gets reelected, he hopefully plans to be a part of Trump's cabinet, which would be a nightmare. There are several things I need people to understand, like real rap. This $300 million is not coming from Jay-Z's money or Rock Nation. This $300 million is coming from taxpayers, us, you and I, people in Pennsylvania who are paying taxpayers. This money is coming from us. This is our money. And the sad part about it is that this money could be used to really help these low performing, public schools. But instead, they're going to keep giving this money to support unaccountable private schools. Now, a lot of people don't understand how voucher programs work. And I'm going to explain how vouchers work because a lot of people just don't know anything about public education and school system. I get it. And that's why we're going to be here on Ernestly Speaking, talking our shit. So this is a government voucher program. Like, what this is a government voucher program. It is not a charitable donation to support public schools. It's none of that. It is a government voucher program. And so here's what we know about voucher programs for people that don't understand. There has always been this notion that, and let me tell you what a voucher program is before I get into the issues. Voucher programs basically is a system where they will give you basically some money, like a subsidy will go to, let's say, a low income family. Let's say you're a family in a low income environment and your public school is, you consider it shitty. It's not good. You're not learning, whatever, right? And you want an alternative, but you don't know how to, because the logic is that, oh my goodness, I can't go to a public school. I can't go to a public school. I can't go to a private school, right? The logic is I can't afford to go to a private school. And so you'll see in certain neighborhoods, right, elected officials, because I'm going to call some of them out. You have elected officials, you have rich people that are pretty much in a position where they can afford fancy things. They can afford to have send their kids to private school while everybody else's kids go to, public schools, right? So the logic is, to those kids from the hood who can't afford private school, here's some vouchers so you can have a thing, what they call school choice. And so with this money, this voucher money, you can put that money towards going to a private school in your neighborhood so that you can have the choice to have a quote unquote better education. That's the whole logic. And they play on this equity shit of saying, oh, this is equitable because no kid should have to go to a piss poor public school. They should be able to have a school of their choice. So the money is put in vouchers, right? Which the state votes on, right? The government votes on this. Conservatives support this, right? The government says they've supported this ideology. Like this is a law in different states where they can have these programs, right? And they will put their money, they will use taxpayers' dollars. They will use our money and say, rather than we fund public schools and say, well, if your school is shitty and you have low funding, wouldn't it be better to use that money, that $300 million, and put it in the Philadelphia school system, to put it in these schools to make these schools better? Like, wouldn't that be the better logic, y'all, right? Like, wouldn't that be the better use of the money? That would be the common sense thing to do, right? But instead, they will put it in other ways to steer away from public education. So the question becomes, why? Why would they rather give it to that than this, right? So I'm going to talk big picture before I get into the macro, before I get into the micro. They want to give it to private schools because private schools get, kickbacks, right? The rich get richer, right? Private schools can do several things that public schools cannot. Private schools can curate education and basically create curriculums that go against the grain on what traditional public schools have to go through. Like if you're in a public school, there is a certain level of curriculum education standards, right? There, you gotta respect different people. There's certain things you have to learn in U.S. history, right? The new mantra is that, okay, we know in Texas, they will take slavery out of the education books. But in Pennsylvania, we haven't gotten to that point because we do have a Democratic governor. We do have, some controls in certain departments. So there isn't that hasn't come to Pennsylvania. But here's the thing. The new movement is we're not going to fight because Republicans and conservatives hate public education because they can't control it. They can't control the curriculum of public education as much as they would like to. So as a result of that, the conversation goes, well, private schools, because private schools are funded a certain way. There's private interest. There's no controls. There's no regulations. They're not accountable to any system. They kind of operate in their own universe, right? And so curriculum, procedures, dress codes, whatever, all that stuff, they can dictate in ways that public school does not, right? And that lack of regulation is what is the problem, right? I could talk about charter schools. Charter schools are much different. I'm not going to go into the charter school debate and argument because that's a whole nother conversation. But when it comes to public schools and private schools, this is the overarching scandal. So with the private schools, because they're not regulated, because they control money, because they control curriculum, they're trying to funnel people into these privatized education systems to, I would argue, indoctrinate them and fuck with them and do all kind of other fucked up things. There's a lot of things that happen wrong in certain private schools and how kids are treated, how people are talked to, how people are educated, how people are whatever. There's a lot of problems, right? And so the Republican strategy is ridiculously it's evil and diabolically brilliant because the mindset is we got to start at the lowest level. Let's start with public resources and public education. Let's fuck up the system so that actual working class people can be fucked over. So then you say, well, what will actually happen? Why would they do it and put kids in those schools? Wouldn't that mean the kids that go to those schools be benefiting? Wouldn't it be better? What is that about? So here's the issue. Voucher programs have not been shown to improve the results of poor Black children. You know why? Because most of them cannot get into high quality private schools. Bing, bing, bing. Oh, I forgot that little detail, right? Vouchers give the kids money, right? Eligibility money to be eligible to compete to go to those schools. But the really, really elite private schools that most people think that their kids will go to, they don't get accepted because you actually have to apply to go to private schools. Like some of these academies and places, they don't give a fuck about the voucher and the money alone. They actually want to know a little bit more. You have to apply. And the thing about the application is that a lot of those applications, those private schools are very discriminatory, as you all can imagine, because they want to know who your family is. Is this Family Gap Bank? Will they be able to put money into this, Will they have the clout to bring money to that private school, raise money for that private school, or donate money to that private school to keep that institution there? Well, if you're a poor Black family that's just trying to get your kid a good education, the voucher to afford to pay for the tuition is cute, but will that be enough to guarantee you anything more than that? So as a result, it's not a winner. So then here's the other fucked up part, right? Most of the results, the research shows that it doesn't even benefit the kids in the way, Black kids, in the way that we think it will, because they go to those schools and they also are very young, and they also deal with classism, elitism, racism, and other things that impact their mental health and also impact their academic performance. Like, let's keep it 100 here. So then moving on, right? All the money is coming from taxpayers. It's not coming from Roc Nation. It's not coming from Jay-Z. To be very clear, here's what Roc Nation and Jay-Z are doing. They're launching an educational campaign that I'm willing to bet, because Jay-Z is a businessman, he's not a businessman. He's a business comma man. That man is getting a check. I'm willing to bet, I'm about 100% certain that the likelihood of Jay-Z being paid to do this is very likely. This man, I doubt, is doing any of this for free. Because why would he, right? Like, why would he care about Pennsylvania schools and Philly schools, voucher programs and private schools? That doesn't make any sense. Why would he be doing this educational thing if there was no money involved? Of course there's money involved, okay? So he is most likely getting a campaign to do an educational campaign. And here's the sad part. Involvement is to convince poor Black parents to leave the public schools, because they're doing these dine and learn sessions where they're going to be in Black communities. He's going to use his star power. He's going to use Roc Nation. He's going to use these resources to basically bring out celebrities, most likely, have these fancy sponsored dinners, might get a liquor sponsor while they at it, bring parents out here, bring out the DJs, bring people to come out to these neighborhoods, and they're going to sit there and give these families all of these resources, all of these brochures to try to convince them to opt their kids out of public school and to go to these private schools and get with vouchers, okay? And the sad part is that the fucking lie, right, is that you don't think that $300 million could really make an impact to low-performing schools. Let's be real. It could do a lot. It could do a lot. I mean, when you think about people who've done better, and I'm going to get to those people in a minute, but this lie that these programs do not take from public school funding, that's a lie. These voucher programs, how they kill public education is that they're taking kids out of these neighborhoods, out of public schools, and putting them in private schools. And that means that the few kids that we have in public classrooms mean the less dollars go to their school. So we know that public schools are often funded not only by the government, but by property taxes. Well, that also was dictated by the number of kids enrolled in the public school. So that's why you have noticed, and I don't want to get on the charter schools, but when these schools keep getting shut down, that's because they don't have enough kids going there. Because other programs, private schools, charter schools, or whatever, continue to recruit kids out. Now, charter schools is a little bit of a different beast. I'm not trying to go there. But if you get kids in voucher programs, you're taking these kids and putting them in private schools and taking them out of public schools, then that means that public schools are going to get less money. Because you know why? Because you're putting money in voucher programs to essentially take these kids out of public schools. Why would you spend money to take kids out of public schools when you could actually put that money into actual public schools to make them just as better or competitive? You know why? Because with public education, there's no profit for people. There's no profit for people. When you have private schools, there are profiteers and business people and people involved in stock involved in those schools, and they make money. And conservatives will make a lot of money individually and through capital from the success of a private school than they would a public school. It's a scam. It's an utterly scam. And for Jay-Z to bring his ass over here in Philly is just so fucking disgusting. And at the end of the day, it's a windfall, right, to the city's private schools. They're getting more money at the expense of public schools that most children actually go to in this country. That's why the issue. That's why this is wrong. That is why Jay-Z needs to just sit down. And the reality is that all of these rappers, you got 50 Cent out here cozying up to conservatives because at the end of the day, He's got his damn studio in Shreveport, Louisiana, and they have a Louisiana governor and a conservative state. And so the reality is that none of these rich rappers, these billionaires and people who aspire to be billionaires, they're gross capitalists. They're all in it for what they can get. They don't care about this community. Once they left these quote unquote communities, they never looked back. Oh, that's right. They did look back. They looked back for a check. They're exploiting these communities. They're in bed with programs being launched and supported, initiatives being launched by conservatives. Like, it's just disgusting. And the reason why they're not as aligned with the Democratic establishment, a party per se, is because they don't feel like they're getting any money, any kickbacks for doing it, right? Like, okay, sure, I can endorse Biden, I can do this, I can do that. But here's the thing, what am I going to get out of it? So it's easy for people like Jay-Z, in my opinion, he's Rock Nation, is that they throw stones and they hide their hands. I'm not saying they support Trump or going to vote for Trump. I'm not saying that. But they like to play both sides. They're bipartisan. They're strategic, where they're in bed with Republicans supporting some of these initiatives they do because they can make some money off of it. But at the same time, on the back end, and what's disgusting to me about Jay-Z is that Jay-Z is so rich that he really doesn't have to do this. But the greed, the utter greed is what's disgusting to me. Like, these people are so fucking greedy. Like, how much money do you consistently need to just do fuckery? Like, at a certain point, like, they're a billionaire couple. At a certain point, why do you need to continue to just do this? The greed, because there's no emotional connection. Jay-Z's kids are never going, like, they don't even have to go to school. I mean, they don't have to get degrees or anything, to be honest. I mean, Jay-Z nor Beyonce have college degrees, and they're always the example that people think that, oh, I don't have to go to get a degree, I have to do any of this because look at them. It's like, you're not them. You're not them. But this is the reality. Like, why are you so invested? And why are you coming to my state, a state that you don't live in, and is simply single-handedly dropping bombs to further fuck over the education? Like, I'm done with Jay-Z. Like, I don't like him. I mean, what do we expect? This man can't be faithful to Beyonce. Why would you think he'd be faithful to public schools? Like why? He was trash to me after the NFL. But some of you all said chess, not checkers. And I'm just still trying to figure out these chess moves. The NFL continues to be a problem for black people and be trash. What happened with that? What happened with NFL? Nothing. Jay-Z made more money, okay? And that's what happened. Jay-Z made money. And some of his friends got exposure. It didn't do nothing for racial justice. This stunt. How many poor black kids are actually going to truly benefit? And if they quote unquote benefit, it's oxymoronic because they're benefiting at the expense of public schools in their neighborhood. So that's my take on it. 50 Cent, Republicans, all this stuff. We're not surprised. Rich people, whether they're black or white, at a certain extent, people like them who have no education or understanding whatsoever of these issues, they're in bed for money. They want money, and it is what it is. And honestly, like, I know that she's y'all princess and y'all obsessed with her and y'all stand for her. Like, I like Beyonce's music, but Beyonce's politics is just as trash as Jay-Z's. Like, she's married him. Like, my husband and I are married. We agree with each other. We support each other. We're in alignment about a lot of things. The reality is that, in my opinion, Beyonce is not going to necessarily get involved in politics. That's always been her thing. She really stays out of it. But when you see what her husband do, it tells you it's an extension. Because here's the other reality. When you're in love with somebody, you care about somebody, you're not going to let them do bad things. So my logic is, to Beyonce, and this is like, you guys are both equally powerful, very rich. If you do not agree with this, you will not continue. You will tell your husband, listen, baby, don't do that. Like, we don't need to be involved in that. If this is an equal system, if this is this, right? But she's not saying that because I think she believes, she agrees with it. And you all got to recognize Y'all could keep acting like Beyonce, and I don't believe this at all, is somewhere trapped in this relationship with this problematic ass man, and she doesn't share any of his politics or his beliefs, and she's just this wonderful performer, and she is an incredible performer. I'm not saying that, but that she's just, she's married to this man who's just doing all these things, and she has no agency, and she has no this. That woman has agency. That woman is powerful, and just as powerful as she is as a performer, I'm not for 5 seconds not believing that she doesn't share these beliefs. It's been too many instances of when Jay-Z has taken these stances, has aligned himself with these problematic people, and she has been silent. And her silence is violence, y'all. And it's just disappointing and it's sad. But she's also never really went to public school that much. I mean, she went to ELSIC, my high school, and then she went to a performing arts academy called HSPVA, the Houston School for Visual Performing Arts. She ended up going there. She left ELSIC very quickly, my high school. And you know what? Supporting programs like this would have tried to take a brother like me out of a school like ELSIC that ended up making me the valedictorian, the class president, and the guy who got a full ride to several Ivy League schools. Public school did that for me. And I went to a public school that was good because the school I was in, the community I was in, invested in it. And maybe if you put more resources in public schools in Philadelphia, okay, then you can see that kind of progress. So that's my take on it. That's my stance on it. That's how I feel. It is what it is. Moving on. This week in movies, box office. I told you all that Bad Boys 4, that new Bad Boys movie was fire. It came in number 1 at the box office. Will Smith has been on his big tour. It grossed, are y'all ready for this? It grossed big bank. It did well. It came in at $56 million at the box office. It made $48 million internationally. It's coming in at over $100 million opening weekend worldwide. He did his big one. Will Smith is back. And everyone's trying to figure out, oh my gosh, like, can Will Smith pull this? Because this is like Will Smith's first major movie. We don't talk about Emancipation. Like, that was Oscar bait. That movie never really took off or did anything. But this is Will Smith's first major comeback into the box office scene. And Will Smith is got another film under his belt that has grossed over $100 million. And I'm happy for him. I am. Like, he served his time. He's suspended from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for another couple years. I mean, he's got a 10-year suspension. It's not for life, which is good. But it's very telling. It's very telling that, it's very telling that, people move on. And I always tell people, like, when I did my book, The Case for Counsel Culture, I tell people that there is a level of redemption that can happen through time. And Will Smith is a good example of that. He faced cancel culture. He had that moment, you know what I'm saying? And I think, there's a lot of things, he's been banned for 10 times, but there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of famous people who's been banned. So, a good example is in 1993, Richard Gere was banned from going to the Oscars for 20 years. His ban just got lifted not too long ago because he went off script speaking about the Chinese government's occupation of Tibet while presenting an award. And so he got banned. There was also a lifetime ban in 2004 for Karmi Karidi, who basically was illegally circulating VHS copies of film nominations, including Somebody's Gotta Give and Last Samurai. So there was a controversy because basically he illegally circulated these copies of the year's contenders that had been sent as an Academy voter. Like, he was circulating VHS copies of the film. It was a big old scandal. Bill Cosby got a permanent ban, for sexual assault and all of that. Roman Polanski also got a ban for his historical sexual assault allegations as well. There was also a man named Adam Kimmel who was convicted for rape before joining the academy. It wasn't until 2021 that they expelled him, but he was convicted of rape before joining the academy in 2007, but they expelled him in 2021. He was a cinematographer. Harvey Weinstein, of course, was banned. And then Will Smith was the first star, like actor star, to be banned. And he got banned for 10 years. So, history. Some of these people are canceled for a long time. Some of these people, in the public eye get canceled for a period of time. My book, The Case for Cancel Culture, it explained that. And, that's how it is. So, yeah. He's back. Moving along, music wise, music has been very chill. I am semi low key, but not high key. Looking forward to hearing Normani's album. I've been waiting for this album forever. It's called Dopamine. It comes out this upcoming Friday at midnight. So I'm gonna listen to that. One of my favorite songs of the year, The Boy Is Mine, is not the one by, of course, the iconic Brandy and Monica, but by Ariana Grande, who basically did this hot video for it. It's cute, it's sexy, it's feisty, and I just love the song even more. And Brandy and Monica made a cameo in the video. Like, so smart, so very smart of Ariana Grande to do that. But the video was hot. The song has had me in a chokehold. I've been listening to it nonstop since. But I also been hearing another girl that I've been into lately, and her name is Sabrina Carpenter. I know she's been out. This Espresso song is cute, but she's cute. Like, I really like her music. I'm really into it. And she's dating that Oscar-nominated actor who was he was in Saltburn recently. Barry Keoghan. He's European. But he's, he's always been playing like very queerish characters and things, but he's just really cute. And they're together. I hear they're together. He's in one of her new videos. But Sabrina Carpenter is feeling my little pop, my little pop music bite right now. Right now I'm really over Taylor Swift. So she's filling that void for me right now as far as the pop girls go. But I think she's got a nice thing going for her. I mean, she should definitely get a Grammy nod next year for Best New Artist. It's giving Best New Artist energy. Espresso is a really cute song, but that's not the only song. I don't even drink espresso, but I like that song. But she's got some nice music, and her new album is coming. Her debut, like her big album, is coming out in August, like August 18th or something like that. So I'm looking forward to this Sabrina Carpenter girl. She seems like she's got something going for her. As far as TV goes, Ghost Book 2 is back. This is the final season. Season 4 is the final season. The beautiful thing is they're cutting it into 2 parts. Part 1 is going to go from now into July. And then part 2 is coming back in the fall and they're going to be done. But the first episode, I was like gagged. Finally. I really missed this show. I waited long. It was a long time before this show came back. But it was like I never missed anything. Like, Tariq is just a total hot fucking mess. And he continues to be, but he's like the son you love to hate, the little brother that you would just disown because he's just always on some treacherous shit. But this season so far, it's just high, jolting energy. Mary J. Blige is back as, Mona Tejada. She's just going Tejada. She's just, Monet Tejada is always got something up her skin. I just love her. I love her in this show. It's just so, oh my goodness, it's so fun. It's so campy. It's just Mary J. Blige could do no wrong in my eye. She's just so good in this show. Yeah, I've been really watching it. So every week now, I'm just gonna be watching Ghost. I'm like obsessed with this back. I'm gonna just savor these shows because they're canceling all these shows. Now All American is being canceled. We can't get any. Like, is this All American Homecoming? That show on the CW, my husband loves that whole series. He watched All American for all the seasons. Now All American Homecoming, which is like, he said, the more progressively leaning cool one. That show's getting canceled as they lean into their I think, third or fourth final season, and like he's irked about it because it was a spinoff from All American, and now the show's about to have its final season. He's like devastated about it. Of course, I've been watching Baddies Caribbean, which is very good. This season, it's starting to. I mean, like I've been following it. It's starting to pick up. It was lots of heat intensity. There's 2 Philly girls on the show. We just found out Meatball and her other sister called Tink. They're sisters. I don't know if I'm telling the show too much, but you know, it's reality TV. It is what it is. They're sisters, like blood sisters in real life, and they're both on Baddies Caribbean. And so now the girls are finally leaving Barbados, and now they're about to head to Puerto Rico. Shit's about to go down. You know, Tommy Lee, you know, Tommy, who's this erratic, like, reality girl, she, you know, has been on the show being very contentious and messy. From what I'm hearing, she's about to eventually fade away on the show and things, which I'm happy about. But there's just a lot of things happening on the show. I just don't know where to start and how to process it all. But I love it. And so, yeah, this upcoming weekend, what I have coming up this week, I got a lot of things coming this week. There's a couple of surprises in store. I don't want to tell everything, but just stay tuned for some surprises. There's a lot of fun stuff is going on. I'm really excited about some things happening. I'm going to Delaware. I said that, doing overnight in Delaware. Friday to Saturday, something really quick, something really fun and brief. I'm going to tell y'all more about that on the podcast for next week. I'm going to a rosé day party situation, which I kind of mentioned earlier in the show, that I'm really excited about. Rosé's been growing on me a little bit, but I like sweet and like a sweet, you know, a succulent, suckleberry, honeysuckle. I mean, I like stuff like, I like a really a fruit jammy type of rosé. I don't really like that really tart, like Zinfandel-y type of rosé personally, but yeah, that's my week ahead. And I'm loving the love that you all have been showing me on social media, just the love and the messages and all the different stories and everything. I just want y'all to know that sometimes I don't have enough time to respond to everybody. I try my best, but I see it, I read it, I hear you all, I love you all, and I appreciate you all so much. And as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.